Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, it's my greatest honor and privilege to welcome you all to the second Global South-South Summit in Addis Ababa, Ethiopia, the capital of Africa. A summit that intends to create a platform where stakeholders from the Global South come together to share experiences and knowledge towards sustainable development. And this highly anticipated summit features high-level officials, including His Excellency Ato Gosai Mengiste, Advisor to the Minister of Water and Energy of the Federal Democratic Republic of Ethiopia, and His Excellency Mr. Anil Kumar Rai, Indian Ambassador to Ethiopia, and quite a number of top-notch speakers and experts from around Africa, India, and around the world, mainly from the Global South, who bring tons of expertise on the role of productive use of renewable energy and achieving the UN's SDGs and the potential of the Global South and how to advance South-South cooperation to deal with shared challenges such as poverty, resource scarcity, climate vulnerability, and work towards sustainable development, as well as shared vision of equitable growth and prosperity for all. Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, it's so exciting to have you all here under the same roof, and I think that calls for a warm round of applause to welcome yourselves. Can we do that? Thank you so much. And these two-day summit with the theme, as you can see on the banner, Fostering Collaboration for Sustainable Global South, is organized by Precise Consult, a mission-driven firm established in 2007, working on private sector development, specializing in the areas of off-grid energy, policy innovation, and agro-industrial transformation in Ethiopia, and Global SDG 7 Hubs, a learning platform to position the UN SDG number 7 as a critical catalyst for a sustainable and equitable future through facilitating productive transfers of local knowledge, local expertise, and networks to catalyze the implementation of pro-poor sustainable energy solutions. Global SDG 7 Hubs and Precise Consult are co-hosting the second South-South Summit in Ethiopia in partnership with our development partners, SNV, GIZ, Good Energies, Gogla, and Dune Foundation, Climate Works, and of course Stratix as our media partner, whom we are truly grateful for. And I think the partners have covered lots of the costs that we have as we do this event, and I think they deserve a round of applause if you please can help me with that. Thank you so much. In these 2 days, we will hear from these high-level speakers through speeches, panel discussions, as well as inside events and masterclass sessions. And we also would like to encourage you to look through the energy ecosystem enablers outside the hall, as you've probably already seen, where you will find solar technology providers showcasing various productive use technologies that support livelihoods, and you will also find the major capital drivers of demand and supply of productive use, solar energies, among the exhibitors. So please, whenever you have a chance, especially during breaks, have a look at them, engage with them, and see if you can collaborate with them in any possible way. So welcome once again, ladies and gentlemen. It's my honor to serve you as your MC. And with this as introduction, it's my greatest honor and privilege to welcome to the stage our first two speakers, one after the other, starting with, of course, Henok Asafa, Managing Director of Precise Consult. Please welcome Henok to the podium.
Good morning. How's everyone? Very big room. It makes us a bit more dispersed. I wish we could be closer so we can see our eyes head to head. Good morning again. I'm Henok, founder of Precise. I'm really happy to see you guys here. I have a prepared speech which I just decided not to use because I realized I have our good colleague and friend, Dr. Harish Hande, here all the way from India, from whom we've learned so much, and we had the pleasure of partnering and working with in the off-grid sector for the last 4 or 5 years. And I realized what gives me the right to be talking before he even talks. So I would like to put all the pressure on him and ask him to come here and help set the context. Please welcome Harish Hande to the podium.
I thought you were going to give a speech and then I'm going to follow up on that. Thanks for this, for putting me in the spot. Thank you so much for welcoming us on the second one. You know, development sector is a very funny sector. In many ways, it's no different to a stand-up comedy. In stand-up comedy, at least, what happens is people run out of jokes. In development sector, we still have a lot of jokes to do. So after spending 35 years, I think that it's the only sector, let's be a little brutal, has not moved beyond version 1.0. And this is why we said we need to have this more critically. And what 2 days, what we want to have is absolutely no diplomacy. You know, it's like, how do I say it? It's like a patient running in with a fracture and the blood comes and also bleeding. And the first thing people do is we'll put a Band-Aid to stop the blood. Then we're going to have a training on how to put the Band-Aid. So we're going to call an expert from India, Thomas, who's a Band-Aid putting expert, training expert. He will teach people how to put Band-Aids. We are going to create Band-Aid technicians in Ethiopia who are going to have multiple Band-Aids, and then everybody gets a certificate that they are able to do a Band-Aid. Thomas has put a great certificate to actually provide to the Band-Aid funder that he has trained 30 Band-Aid technicians. Right? In the meantime, the patient has died because he actually had a fracture, right? Now, the funder has actually moved on after 3 years, and Thomas has decided to do innovation because the funder has said new innovation. Now you are innovating on a triangular Band-Aid, which is recyclable. So in the development sector, all projects are successful. The operation is successful, but the patient has died. We have a sense of failed projects across all the southern continents. That's because who has suffered here? The patient. The technician, the NGO, the implementing NGO, the funder have all moved on. How is that the only sector where nobody takes responsibility of the failures, nor there is a decrease of salaries or lack of promotions, does not happen? People move on with another set of failures. How? Who suffers? Only the poor of this world suffer because of the failed projects. We all move on. We will move on to another workshop, we'll move on to another conference. We can keep complaining about it. We've been complaining for 3 decades, 4 decades, 5 decades. 1984 document of water pumping in Mali, we are still talking about water pumping and how to do it today in Ethiopia. 1984, 40 years ago. Because people move on, program managers and funders move on, the implementation agents move on, because we are not the sufferers of what is going to happen. So let us not use these 2 days of conference as another workshop, another talking shop, another workshop, because ultimately none of us in this room will suffer. None of us. It's ultimately the poor Africa, the poor people from Asia and poor people from Latin America, because they are not owning the implementation process. We are all middlemen. End of the day, we are all middlemen. And that needs to stop. The concept of a funder and a grantee needs to stop. The concept of partnership needs to come in, where the true implementers become actually the source or top of the food chain. Now the implementers are bottom of the food chain. How will that project happen at all? 90% of the time, if the CEOs of the implementation organizations are writing proposals and funding, who is actually doing the work? It's about how is my PowerPoint decided and how is my PowerPoint presented so I can get more funding? Is that where we are wasting our time on? People here from Africa, we are in Africa, be committed. Don't run off because somebody is paying you 10% higher. We need commitment. And I request the international NGOs, you are coming here to build capacity and don't steal away the capacity of the local NGOs by paying higher. If you really want to pay higher, give the money to the local NGOs so they can pay their other people higher. That you're degrading, you're removing that generation, and that is why projects don't happen. And that is why we said we'll do a South-South with Precise to bring those problems on table, because most of the time we are diplomatic. We are absolutely diplomatic. We need to stop this diplomacy, because in diplomacy only you and me win, the poor actually lose. And that is why we said, let's have this conference, first one in Bangalore, this time in Africa. And thanks to Hanok, thanks to the colleagues of Precise, thanks to the people in Selco Foundation who've actually made it happen. Thanks for all coming. But please, for the next 2 days, don't put yourself, your organization, and what you're doing when you're discussing, put the poor at the centerpiece of your discussion and say, are we doing some change? That when we do this South-South again next year, we'll come back. So in last 1 year, we have done so much. Rather than complaining, again it didn't happen, or the funding didn't do, the funder didn't do. Those excuses need to be, because if we are not able to solve here, how will the poor actually be taken to the next level? So let's use this, Hanok and Aham. And you've been a great partner to us. I think we need that push to make it happen, because we are tired of that diplomacy. We're tired that we are not the actual sufferers who are actually sitting here. So let's move on and make this workshop a successful one, showing that implementation can happen, poverty can be reduced, and let's start from this conference. Thank you. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Harish. What do I add to that? I don't really have too much to say. It is so important the way Harish presented it. We are here working because we are trying to benefit poor people across the world. And it is so important that we're talking about them, but it's important that we're doing things to make sure the problems that are stopping them from helping themselves are actually removed, most of which we create ourselves. Let me add 1 or 2 more points from my side. And one is simply about the importance of energy. Now, I don't want to claim to be lecturing this audience. Out of the 3 or 4 industrial revolutions the world has ever seen, and maybe there's a 5th one coming with artificial intelligence, the one that has created the most amount of wealth in the world is the 2nd one, and that is the electricity and internal combustion engine. That has created the prosperity that we see up in the north. Unfortunately, vast regions of the south still are waiting for that 2nd industrial revolution. And unfortunately, even more unfortunately, because the north fired up so much coal and dirty fuels to electrify itself, we no longer have that option for ourselves. So it is an opportune time that off-grid, standalone renewables are actually coming into play. And the point here I want to make, and I want to convince you, and I want to implore, as Harish said, is let's stop being diplomatic. Off-grid solutions are not a filler. They're not something we do until the grid gets there. They are solutions that are here to stay. They are solutions that are probably for most of the South, for Africa certainly, where most people live distributed, it is a solution that could get to them the fastest, that can empower them the most, is the simplest, cheapest, most intuitive solution that is out there. But we're all being diplomatic and not putting this on the table. I would like to implore you to not be diplomatic about this. The second thing is about innovation. It has lost its meaning. But what I want to say here is innovation is not something that we in the South basically wait for the North to do and then basically copy them. I think there are several examples of Africa and Asia and the global South innovating. Innovation is nothing but us working together to solve our problems in a way that fits our specific conditions. Our farmers, our small businesses have been doing it for ages. There is nothing new in that. And in fact, I want to make the case that in the global South, especially in Africa and in India and other places, we have a comparative advantage to innovate in distributed solutions, in renewable energy solutions, because we do not have things that tie us back. We don't have vested interests. We don't have big corporates who benefit from the status quo. And I think I'm not talking in hypotheticals or theoreticals. The first time I saw mobile money was in Kenya. It wasn't in America, where I grew up. It took a few years for that to happen in America. But in Africa, it's spreading like wildfire. In Asia also. Simple solutions, they can take up easiest in Africa. I believe we have the opportunity to innovate on decentralized solutions that even the North are struggling to work out. Even the North, the rich nations, are struggling to innovate and scale up on. They have more challenges than we do. I truly believe that, and our solutions can actually help in sustainable development, in making sure the climate is not further harmed, in making sure that the dirty way most of the world has grown, the way that we have excluded so many of our poor populations and inequalities, can actually be helped by pushing on distributed solutions. Bear with me, just one last point. One last point. Anything of meaningful size, anything of a global problem like this we're trying to solve cannot be done individually. Collaboration is extremely important. And I don't mean this in the kumbaya way where we all hug each other, again, be diplomatic and say nice things. Working together is hard. Working together itself is work. We need to make sure that we put in place the institutions, the systems, the processes, the knowledge that's important to bring us together and to work together. That is why we're here today. That is why the first time this event was held in Bangalore a couple of years ago, we were so impressed by what we saw from our colleagues, Harish Hande and the colleagues from Selco Foundation in Selco, India. We met so many of our colleagues from Africa in India. From Africa in India. We didn't meet them in Africa. It is so important that those of us who care about this come together to find the ways that we work together. And that is why we're here today. In that spirit, I want to thank the collaboration that we've begun here. There are organizations working with us. This is not just Selco Foundation, global SDG 7 hubs, and Precise. We have so many partners. You will meet them here today. Our colleagues from SNV that are here today, from GIZ, Power for All, Gogla, Good Energies, Climate Foundation, and then you will meet so many people representing global institutions in the next 2 days, today and tomorrow, who all said, we care about finding a way to collaborate. So I implore you again, talk to each other, listen to each other, and by the end of it, we hope to walk away with a number of specific recommendations, specific action points that we will collaborate on. And I hope you will join us again next time when we do the third Global South-South Cooperation. we're arguing. I'm suggesting we go back to Asia, and Dr. Harish is saying, no, we need to come back to Africa. So maybe you guys can chime in and help. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Henok, as well as Mr. Harishande, CEO of Selco Foundation, for the very insightful messages and for encouraging us to work together. Working together is hard, yes, but we need to be selfless. I think if we're not selfless, then we will never be able to work together and work for the poor. So I think that's a very, very interesting issue that you've raised. So thank you so much, and I think they have set the scene very well, and we're gonna go into our keynote speaker now, and then we will go into panels. We have a series of panels today, and I'm sure going to engage in as much as possible with every one of those. So without further ado, please join me in welcoming our keynote speaker, His Excellency Ato Gosai Mengiste, Advisor to the Minister of Water and Energy of the Federal Democratic Republic of Ethiopia. Please welcome him to the podium.
Thank you very much, Mr. Henok and Mr. Harish, for your powerful words and thoughts. Distinguished guests and Global South-South Summit organizers, members of diplomatic community, and representatives of international organizations, innovators, academia, investors, public and private media, ladies and gentlemen, all protocol observed. On behalf of the Ministry of Water and Energy of the Federal Democratic Republic of Ethiopia, I warmly welcome you all to our capital, Addis Ababa. We are honored to host you at the second SDG 7 Global South-South Summit 2024. It is my distinct honor and privilege to join you at this one-of-a-kind event on SDG 7, affordable and clean energy, focusing on decentralized renewable energy, or we can say DRE, solutions to empower marginalized communities, unlock sustainable livelihoods, and build climate resilience. This summit showcases not only Ethiopia's thriving off-grid energy sector, but also serve as a launchpad for collaboration on renewable energy development and expansion across the global south. As you know, renewable energy is crucial to harness the potential of our young population. We need to innovate renewable solutions urgently. The Ethiopian government recognizes this and is committed in implementing the solutions through creating an enabling environment for the private sector and civil society organizations. Ethiopia is endowed with various renewable energy resources potential, and the country is one of a few countries in the world who generates almost all its electricity from renewable energy sources, mostly based on hydropower. Our target is to increase the renewable energy mix. However, out of 120 million population, almost half of the people still lack access to electricity. To address this challenge, the government has released an ambitious national electrification program since 2017 to achieve universal electricity access nationwide by 2030 through both on-grid and distributed renewable energy solution or off-grid solution, tailoring the least cost technology choices by geographic location while ensuring timely access provisions and priority to deep rural communities and social institutions. Mini-grid or distributed renewable energy activity in Ethiopia has started to show rapid progress across public, private and cooperative-led business models. We have started to build more than 200 mini-grids by public and private sector engagement through the World Bank finance called ADELE project, which is accelerated distribution electricity light in Ethiopia. Clean and affordable energy is key to ending poverty and achieving sustainable development. We understand that empowering marginalized communities, fostering livelihood, and building climate resilience requires collaboration. We are actively working with stakeholders across Africa, of course India, and beyond to implement national electrification and clean cooking program. Recently, our ministry gave great attention to clean cooking program to address health, environment, gender, equity, and climate change impact. And we have started preparing the clean cooking national roadmap and investment plan to eliminate cooking poverty by expanding the low emissions, improved cook stoves, and clean cooking technologies and fuels in line with the SDG target. Distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, I commend the motivation and determination and resilience of Global South-South productive use of renewable energy community. The energy sector has a significant and productive role to play in achieving the goals related to income and poverty, education, health, and gender issues. For example, productive use of energy, such as electricity, has a huge role for enhancing farm income and productivity by enabling irrigation, cold storage, post-harvest, processing water, and water supply, etc. In this regard, the government of Ethiopia is working hard to facilitate the use of electricity for productive uses. Just to mention, recently we have started distributed renewable energy for agricultural modality. We call it DREAM project, which is the first private mini-grid project to be tested and will scale up to more than 100 mini-grids for anchor customers, which are mainly the irrigation farmers and business communities beyond lighting in rural areas. Yes, energy as an input is critical to achieve the targets of poverty reduction, increase economic and socio-economic growth, and meet other national international commitments. Therefore, your dynamic nature of energy community and immense potential can soon make the Global South-South a renewable energy powerhouse. Regarding to our entrepreneurs and innovators, you are not alone. The Ethiopian government is committed to build an entrepreneurial government that supports your work. We are dedicated alongside our partners to fostering an ecosystem that fuels innovation to address Ethiopia's economic and social challenges. The Global South-South Summit is not just about reorganizing excellence. It is about connecting you with networks and resources to amplify your impact, learn from others, share your experiences, and foster a local innovation ecosystem that propels you globally. Solar energy experts, innovators, and investors from across the globe, the Global South, welcome, share, learn, and build a vibrant community that disrupts the status quo and shapes the future of renewable energy in the Global South. Finally, I would like to express my sincere gratitude to all our partners for their contribution, and especially the Global SDG 7 hubs and PRECISE for hosting this summit to be a reality in Addis Ababa, Ethiopia. Enjoy your stay in Addis Ababa, experience our warmth and hospitality, and have a productive learning experience. I thank you very much.
Thank you so much, sir, for joining us this morning, as well as for making your keynote remarks and for showing your solidarity with what we're trying to do here today. So now, ladies and gentlemen, we're going to go straight to the first panel for this morning. We have a number of them lined up for us. So we'll start with panel number 1, which is on international collaboration in the global south. And the discussion is on existing experience of collaboration between development organizations in the global south and fostering discussions on sharing challenges and opportunities for sustainable development. And this session will be moderated for us by Ato Henok Asafazi. You've met him a moment ago. He is, so he's going to come up here while he does. I will quickly go through his bio just so everyone knows who Henok is. So Henok is the founder at Precise Consult, and he's also co-founder at African Renaissance Partners, driving take-led economy, transformation in Africa, angel and venture investors, innovations for growth. And Henok is a passionate founder and entrepreneur, investor, as well as economic development architect. And his mission is to catalyze a technology-driven economic transformation in Africa. His conviction is that the tools of the fourth industrial revolution and digitization, distributed renewable energy, AI, and cloud computing are pivotal in crafting a unique growth path for Africa, distinct from historical precedents. And his journey includes pioneering Ethiopia's first agribusiness incubator, an energy market accelerator, and designing the World Bank's IFC's Climate Innovation Center in 2023. He co-founded an African Renaissance Partners and further committed to support innovators and entrepreneurs driving Africa's technological revolution. And his angel investing journey, including co-founding Addis Ababa Angels, complements his experience in retail and real estate, as well as agribusiness ventures. Henok holds a bachelor's and a master's degree in economics from Fordham University in New York, and economic development and entrepreneurship are at the very center of his passion, and that is Henok. We're going through the bios a bit in detail, so you really know who is speaking and the value they bring to the table. Now, please welcome our one of our panelists, Mr. Eric Naivasha, Associate Director. Mr. Eric will be coming up to stage now. Mr. Eric Naivasha is the Associate Director for Energy, Environment, and Climate Change at Equity Group, where he leads in execution of projects and programs aimed at climate change mitigation and adoption in areas of renewable energy or energy transitions, energy efficiency, climate-smart agriculture, and water and e-mobility, circular economy, environmental conservation, and nature-based solutions. And in execution of these initiatives, Mr. Naivasha leads in capacity development, technical assistance, and appropriate financing models for climate change mitigation and adaptation projects, and promoting resilience and adaptive capacity in local ecosystems and businesses. He has over 25 years of experience in financing in finance and business consulting in different markets across Africa, 10 of which have been in sustainability initiatives. I could go on and on. His bio is quite substantial, but I would just add Mr. Naivasha. Sorry, I just need to mention his education. He is an, So Mr. Naivasha is a sustainability and climate risk expert and holds a master's degree of science in economics from the University of Zimbabwe and a BA degree in economics from Moi University. He has served in several senior positions, and he has also conducted over 30 consultancy assignments in 12 countries in Africa and Asia, mainly in areas of financial access and renewable energy. Welcome, sir. And our next panelist is Ms. Linda McKenna. Please welcome Ms. Linda McKenna Irere to the stage. She is from GIAP, East Africa. Ms. Linda McKenna was Director of Clean Energy Research at CLASP, and she leads their energy access research portfolio focused on filling technical and, sorry, yes.
Sorry, the names are wrong. I don't work at CLASP.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah, maybe I can just sing
Okay,
the bio.
okay. Sorry, is this you? Give me a second. Okay. So there's been a bit of a misunderstanding in her bio, so she said she will introduce herself. I'll leave it at that. My apologies. And our next panelist is Mr. Thomas Pulkov. Honkov. If you could please come up to stage. And I hope I got the right bio here. So Mr. Thomas has more than 28 years of experience in the domains, is that correct?
I'll do it myself.
You'll do it yourself, okay. Do you want to go through
Okay, so I am the Band-Aid expert who came and killed the person in Africa.
Okay, the bandit is in the house, it's time to run. Thank you, sir. You just made my life very easy. Now, our final panelist is Mr. Kamran. Is Mr. Kamran in the house? Please welcome Mr. Kamran to the podium, and I wonder if he wants to do the same.
Please. Thank you so much. I'm not the bandage expert, but yeah, working in the development sector for a few years, currently working for Arena, and mainly covering the issues around energy access and productive use of energy. So good to be a part of the panel. Thanks.
Thank you. And so one more panelist, please. Do you want to introduce yourself?
Sure. My name is Lema, and I'll introduce myself.
All right.
To speak. Thank you.
So his name is actually Jesus Lamasagari, but he says, don't go there, just call me Lema. And now he has transformed into an Ethiopian because Lema is a very common Ethiopian name. So without further ado, I will leave the floor for our moderator, Henok.
Thank you. That is quite possibly the longest introduction I've ever received. And I certainly don't deserve it, but I would say, you know, I am a champion of innovators and entrepreneurs, and my entire career has been on how to empower them, how to solve problems for them to thrive. I don't claim to solve any development problems. I think entrepreneurs and innovators who are in this room as well, you should congratulate yourselves because you are the solution despite all the challenges that are out there. So that's how I would introduce myself. This session is about international collaboration. I think I've said enough about it earlier, so I don't want to go too much into it, but we have a distinguished panel here from vastly different experiences and backgrounds. What we'd like to tackle is basically why should we collaborating internationally? Not just South-South, but also internationally, right? So South-South is very important for us because not much of it is happening out there. We would like to stimulate that because right now it's North-South for the most part. But also globally we need to collaborate. We are trying to solve solutions that, problems that affect all of us. These are shared problems of climate, shared problems of inequality, poverty. All of these things matter to all of us as humanity. So what collaboration, as I mentioned earlier, by itself is work. We can't just make it happen. We can't just will it to happen. So it's important to understand why we should collaborate and really discover insights from experiences already on the ground. What are the things that are working? What are the things that are not working? What should we really be doing moving forward? I have the lone woman on the panel who has not introduced herself. So I'm going to start with Makena. Actually, I'm not going to try to introduce you. I'm going to let you introduce yourself.
Thank you all. And yeah, sorry for the misunderstanding. You know, sometimes you don't share bios in time. Lesson learned. I'm Makena Ireri. I'm a director at the Global Energy Alliance for People and Planet. My specific section that I work on is called Demand, Jobs, and Livelihoods. And listening to Harish speak about, you know, the end user, the person who we sometimes term the beneficiary, the poor person who needs our support, our help, our enabling them to rise out of poverty. That is exactly what the section of my work does, translating energy into the actual activities, the impacts that would really change people's lives. So productive uses, as we'll talk, but many other ways that we can deliver energy in a way that actually makes a difference to people economically. I won't go all the way into my background, 10 years in the space, worked on research, worked on productive uses for a very long time, but really excited to be here to talk about what is possible when we come together and why it's so important to do so. and also what happens when we don't, and all the missed opportunities that exist there. So I don't know, Henok, are we posing a question or just the introduction?
Yeah, no, please keep going. So you represent and work with an organization that is trying to create global collaboration to solve shared
But
problems.
really excited to be here to talk about what is possible when we come together. Oh.
We have an echo. As you all know, GIAP is a collaboration between IKEA Foundation, Rockefeller Foundation, Bezos Earth Fund. It's already an experience that we can learn from. So the question I would pose here would be, what have you learned so far? Should we even be collaborating? If we should be, then what are the things that seem to be working that are not working?
Yeah, this is great and just speaks to my first talking point. You know, at GIAP, we even coined a word for this idea around collaboration. It's a verb, we call it alliancing. You know, making up our own words as we go, as we even make up our own things. But the idea is that we cannot by ourselves, as an organization, as any one organization, pool the right amount of resources, the right amount of capabilities, and the diversity of all that is needed to solve these big challenges. So GIAP, specifically focused on the energy space, has this ambition to radically collaborate and build an alliance. And what we mean by that is, for example, bringing together 3 powerful foundations to collaborate on not just their own agendas on energy access, right, or energy transitions, but to agree to work on a shared agenda, to share the limelight, which sometimes is also a thing that we have to really consider. So to progress very, very ambitious goals. I mean, 4 metric tons of carbon dioxide, 150 million jobs and livelihoods. They seem impossible, and they would be if we were to do that alone. So we envisage it not really as GIAP in the middle, and there's a bunch of partners who are kind of reaching into GIAP or into any one organization, but really as a mesh. We are enabling organizations to connect to each other as well as connect to us, to pool resources together through us, but also through each other, and to fundraise together and to kind of move that on together, because that collective action as a mesh is what really enables the work to go forward. And when I think about the South-South collaboration of it, for example, we work in the global South continent, so Asia, Latin America, and Africa. And these are the places where we are at the very frontier of economic growth. We are going to be the ones who change the face of the global economy in the coming decades, yet we are not really taking advantage of this situation. We also have vast untapped resources that is not news to anyone. Least of all the ones flowing from remittance back to us from our friends and family in the global north. So many opportunities in the global south to collaborate, to pool resources, to pull money together. And if we can do all of that, and this is not just the ambition of GIAP or the learning of GIAP, is that it does a lot of things for us when we collaborate in the global south. I think we are able to aggregate our diplomatic power, our influence power, which we typically, as individual states and countries, have little of, right, historically. But if we can pull together our negotiating power, influencing power, then our agenda comes to the center stage rather than anybody else's. We can find alternative models of development. I think we've already started discussing that. We can find our own solutions and drive them forward. And most importantly for me is economic autonomy, right? We can get to a place where we are following the money, and the money is flowing south-south rather than north-south, because that economic autonomy is what allows us to put the money in the things that we think matter, to drive the urgency that we feel matters for us, and also to drive the scale of the impact that we feel matters. So all to say that the urgency is there, it's really crucial for us to collaborate. GIAP is attempting to do that, do this alliancing approach. There are many lessons to be learned, and we can talk about those. But really the imperative there is to get us to a place where we are the ones in control of the change that we want to see.
Thank you, Makena. If I could just ask one quick follow-up question. I think the alliancing is very important. You make very interesting points. How do we, an economic sovereignty in a way is something that we aspire to, even though I am not one of those people who believes that the the rest of the world doesn't have the responsibility to fund the growth of the South. It's a closed system, and we're paying for the sins of our colleagues and comrades in the rest of the world. And I think Africa deserves, and the South in general deserves, some financial support to make sure that we don't also try and kill the planet together. So I guess the question here is, how can we ensure that the resources will flow to the South? And the second question is, how do we make sure the resources in the South are actually being better utilized? Because I would make the argument the most resources we have is actually here, us, the entrepreneurs, the innovators, the policy makers who could make it easier and beneficial for the innovators to succeed.
Yeah, I mean, on the point of, what do we deserve in the global South, given we weren't participating in the destruction of the environment that we're in right now, and do we deserve those kind of what is it called? Sort of the payments back. The word escapes me. That we've been fighting at COP for a very long time to try and get. We can wait for that, and we can keep waiting and waiting and asking and making all the right arguments why we deserve the kind of support that we deserve to make development happen on the continent and on our continents. But I think that is just one arm, and yes, we should keep pushing that agenda, but that cannot only be the thing we do, right? Because that is also not within our control. It's not within our control whether northern governments then pass this funding to us. But what is within our control, which you've mentioned, our resources, our policies, the funds that we are generating in this continent and keeping in this continent, but choosing to invest in the global north. How many pension funds in Africa continue to invest outside of Africa when we have our own programs and projects that have the potential? Maybe they need to be de-risked. Maybe there are many issues about trying to invest in those things, but let's solve those issues which are more within our control, rather than looking to money that, even if it does flow, tends to flow with conditions. I mean, if you've been in this sector for a long time, it's not the most flexible funding. It's not the most appropriate in many ways. So I think, to answer your question, yes, we should keep talking about and campaigning for funds to flow that aid our development, that help us get to the place where the rest of the world is, but we cannot stop the work, and I think it's like maybe a 20-80%, the work of growing our own solutions and the work of investing in ourselves and de-risking ourselves and our funds.
Well put, and I think you're pointing me to Eric somehow.
Yes. Yes, I am.
We have just the right person to actually pick up from there. Eric Naivasha comes to us from Equity Foundation. We obviously know of Equity Bank. Just the question here would be, from the point of financing, yes, we can sit here and wait for the North to get its act together, put some money together, figure out how to transfer it and not affect the business environment, all of these things. But we can also try and figure it out locally. So my question to you is, in your work, what is your experience, or what are your thoughts on how we might be able to catalyze domestic funding to come into play here? How can we catalyze also, how can we even remove the challenges just our people are facing to rid themselves out of poverty, to change their lives on their own? And half of the problem is us getting in the way.
Thank you very much, Enoch. Let me start by saying that the Global South challenges are very connected. What a farmer is facing in Africa, in Southeast Asia, in Latin America, is the same. And therefore, cooperation is vital for shaping that future. Because the problems are connected, then it might be also that the solutions can also be connected in the South-South. And I believe that it's only together in the South-South that we could forge a world of shared prosperity. Because here we're talking about shared prosperity, and therefore cooperation within the South-Southern should not have any borders. In fact, I'm suggesting that we should ignore political borders. They are not ours anyway. And cooperate for shared prosperity. McKenna has pointed to something that is very important, that the Global South cooperation will give us a better bargaining power in the international arena. Because, as Henok, you've rightly put it, we still need resources and better technology from the global north and DFIs and all that. But we cannot harness that if we are disjointed. First of all, we need to be strong. Then we are able to forge a voice that can unlock resources. The loss and damage fund that we keep on talking about, we'll wait for that one until 2030, most probably. But then, to your question, and then what do we need to do on a South-South basis? In Equity Bank, we did a number of things. One, we came up with what we are calling the Africa Recovery and Resilience Plan. It's not a Kenyan plan. It's an African plan. And we said we are going to focus on 6 areas. Let's focus on food and agriculture to improve our food security for our people. And that's where there's a big nexus there between, we are working on between energy, productive use, creating resilience within agricultural ecosystems in an African context, and connecting countries and ecosystems. Then we said, let's also focus on extractives, especially in the context of DRC. Because as like we put it, all the resources we need to develop are with us. If you look at DRC, where I spend most of my time, the resources in that country are enormous. 70% of the world's cobalt are found in DRC. And all other rare earth minerals that you can think of are in this continent. But then if you want to buy an electric battery, you have to go to the global north with the resources that are coming from Africa. And that's why we are working even with the global north on technology transfer and saying, instead of getting all the cobalt and taking it outside, why can't we add a value addition in the continent? That is what the Africa Recovery and Resilience Plan is championing. Adding value to our own minerals, to our own agricultural productivity. And what we have done is we have seeded, as Equity we are saying, we are not coming empty-handed. We have mobilized $6 billion to seed that plan of Africa recovery. And then we've mobilized the governments. A number of governments within the region have signed to that plan. The East African Community, the Commonwealth, the Africa Free Continental Trade Area assigned to that plan. And since now we are able to unite, so we came with a global African plan, but then we divided it into Africa, to country-specific plans. Now the global north started coming. And we are calling it South-South solutions for South-South problems. Then we are now able to attract resources from the global north and other funders. I went to the World Bank and we asked them, give us a plan for Africa. Then they couldn't give us anything. We said, we have one for you. And we gave out them the Africa Recovery and Resilience Plan. As we speak now, we are presenting that plan to the Senate in the US. There's a delegation already there. Because you can see now we are now able to, once we organize ourselves, we are able now to start attracting funding. But we found our own local resources to seed that particular plan. Then we said, Africa offers, and South-South offers a very big market. So we started doing trade missions. So you take Kenyans to DRC, you take DRC to Tanzania, to Zambia, trade mission to see how can trade occur within the African context. The agriculture that we are talking about in our plan is not based in Kenya, and Equity is a Kenyan institution. It's based in DRC. The headquarters for agriculture is not in Kenya, it's in DRC. Because you have seen DRC can actually frog agriculture in the region and feed the rest of us. Tanzania and DRC leading us in agriculture and extractives and all that. So that is how we are trying to do this. But then what has helped us on the financing aspect is two things. One is capacity building of our people, because that's a powerful de-risking instrument for lending. Number two is looking for partners, and we are working with the Africa Guarantee Fund and other institutions on de-risking investment, especially on renewable energy. We are working with a lot of partners so that then the bank is able to lend to renewable energy projects and other projects by leveraging on first loss guarantees, leveraging on capacity building that has already been offered by the foundation. So that's how we are organizing our funding. Our success looks like connecting 5 million small businesses across the region, greening those SMEs, and creating 25 million direct jobs in those ecosystems, and another 5 million indirect jobs through ecosystems. So that's how we are approaching our business, which is a combination of the social side, which is anchored in the foundation, and the economic side, which is anchored in the bank in terms of funding. And the two then works together. So the foundation is de-risking the customer, and the bank is using the balance sheet, to be able to lend to that particular customer. And we made it, actually today, if you look at the balance sheet of Equity, 63% of our profits come outside Kenya, because we have said, let's connect ecosystems across the region. That's our little attempt to try and collaborate in the global south. And all our technology comes from India. Most of the tech, whether it's IT, whether it's equipment, you find most of the people that we are collaborating are most of the Indian companies which are offering very, very good technology solutions.
Thank you so much. I think we can exhaust the whole hour, so I want to make sure I'm going to move it faster, but it is an interesting initiative you mentioned. We all, personally, I believe the biggest source of funding for development, for entrepreneurship, for innovation is actually domestic financing. And I think foreign financing can help. We really need it, but we need to figure out how to utilize our own domestic resources as well. This is extremely important. Something we're testing in Ethiopia at the moment, something we've learned from other global south companies, organizations as well. Let me go to the second point of our conversation with McKenna here. Kamran, I think, we were just addressing the South-South and how can we muster resources and push innovation to solve our problems. Well, it's a closed system, as we said, and it's important to collaborate globally for everybody's benefit. And, IRENA, the International Renewable Energy Agency, is in a unique place to be doing that and has been doing that. What are your thoughts? What are your recommendations on how we could collaborate better? What have you seen works well?
Yeah, thank you so much, Yanik. I mean, as you said, ARENA is an intergovernmental, so we have been promoting this cooperation for last 15 years. And you also mentioned the point about moving things from global north to global south, and this is what we also promote, not just for global south, but moving the required skills and finance to the global south. I think that is important. But what has worked? I mean, ARENA recently has moved or expanded its scope beyond the knowledge hub to more on project facilitation. And what we are seeing more often is that there needs to be, of course, a greater cooperation among the ecosystem players. So beyond the international organization, development partners, but as Harish said, keeping people at the center of it, keeping communities a part of the cooperation, and also working with an NGOs, the ecosystem players on the ground, to develop the solutions, the programs that are implementable. So this is the approach lately we have been following in our initiatives. In particular, I want to mention about the Empowering Lives and Livelihood initiative, of which CELCO and SNV are our partners. So what we are trying to do is that trying to bring in the renewable energy component into the healthcare, the life part, and the livelihoods, the agriculture part of it. And what we are trying to do is to generate knowledge as a phase one. I mean, relying on the ground experiences, collecting data from the ground, using ARENA as a repository of data, using skill set of our partner like CELCO and SNVs to generate the knowledge, and then using that knowledge around technical designs, financial solutions to come up with a program which basically avoids a piecemeal approach or avoids the silos, which brings in the ecosystem players into it. And that program has a voice from the ground in terms of what is doable, what is implementable, what is really needed, instead of bringing the finance without a proper plan. So that is basically the phase two, which is the pivotal. So ARENA is basically leading on these two paths. But when we go to the implementation, we are not the implementing agency. So there we actually relies on partners like CELCO or UNICEF or WHO. So what we are trying to do is that not just relying on our expertise, but also bringing the expertise from different spheres. So for example, we know that we are an energy expert agency, but we are not experts on the health side. So we are engaging with WHO and UNICEF to have their inputs into the program, and then working with the NGOs on the ground. On the agri side, we are working with the FAO and SNV, and as I said, and other partners to have their inputs who are working on the ground and can give us like the information, the voice from the ground. And then we bring our holistic approach into it. So I think that has been quite successful so far. I mean, we are working in around 13 countries, mainly in sub-Saharan Africa. 5 on healthcare, the rest on agriculture. And we are very much at the programmatic design phase, and I've been having some chats with CELCO colleagues lately, is also on how we can develop some form of a finance models, the financing mechanism, which are basically applicable to the countries. So these programs are very government-led, government-owned, community-owned programs that ARENA is facilitating to move funds to. I think the other part that we are also focusing on, and what we really think is a game changer for South, is a skills development. I mean, it's a huge youth population. What we also see is that they need to be trained with a proper skill set. Harish mentioned about the health and energy and all those aspects. We are also considering in terms of developing a tailored skill set that basically fulfills the needs of the market. So in that regard, we have an entrepreneurship program going on with SECRI, with ECRI, and we plan to expand in other geographies as well to promote the entrepreneurs, to improve their skills, work with them on the business models, and then come up with and raise funds for them. Then there's a focus around South-South cooperation, which is slightly high level, but again, as we are discussing more the South context, we have a recently launched initiative called APRA, which is Accelerated Partnership for Renewables in Africa. And the unique thing with this initiative is that it's not ARENA-led, it's countries-owned and led initiative, and ARENA is a facilitator. So what basically we're trying to do differently with this is that countries should have a say in terms of operationalizing the framework, the governance structure. They should come up with their roadmap and framework of what exactly they need from the point of view of transition, infrastructure, access. And then what our role is basically to move the global north, the funds, the donors, to move to those countries. And we're also taking it more from the point of view of like a small set of countries initially. So we have Rwanda and Namibia, Zimbabwe, Sierra Leone. I think there's discussion going on with Ethiopia as well to be a part of it, to move it forward. But the uniqueness is that basically the countries know the problems, their problems. They will come up with their plan, and then those plans need to be implemented through financing from the Global North, and INA acts as a facilitator. So this is lately is an approach, especially when we have moved to more on facilitating implementation point of view, moving from a knowledge hub. So what we are giving more of liberties to the countries, to the partners to work together, and our role is mainly as a facilitator role that we're trying to promote.
Thank you. I'm going to come back to the audience, so just want to let you know so that you can get your questions ready for everyone. And I'm going to move it on. I think the conversation on especially global cooperation is not going to end very quickly here. We're hoping to just get it started in a way. Again, the resources we need, quite a bit of it, we've been saying, we already have in the Global South and in Africa. And it's really, quite a bit of it is in the innovators and in the technology. Technology has been the driver of wealth and economic development everywhere. And we have so many people here already who are innovating at the margin there. So I guess here I want to bring in Thomas, sir, who is one of the co-founders of Selco India. For so many years has innovated on the margins here on small-scale solutions. You know, most of our poor, most of the people in the Global South, their needs are not in megawatts. Their needs are actually simpler. That could take them from where they are to the next step and beyond. So from that point of view, how can we actually catalyze South-South cooperation, Thomas?
Thanks, Henok. So I've been listening to my fellow panelists who were speaking about the resources and the need of resources, both whether it's from the Global North or from, within in-country resources. But I believe that resources go beyond money. And I also believe that there is money available provided, we know what to do with the money and how to use it. It's not a question of, is the money available? It may be available globally, it may be available within our own countries, it might be nationally, procured or collected. But I think when we're talking of cooperation, when we're talking of partnerships, the resources that we need go beyond money. It's what is relevant for the country, what is relevant for the people. As Henok just said, we don't need megawatt scale projects. We don't need technology that is, more Western, quote unquote, developed or more best apt for the more, technology advanced countries. We need technology that is more relevant for our people, and I think that's where the global South to South can contribute the most. Let me just give you an example. When we started Selco in 1995, as a company, we procured technology from one of the global leaders at that point in time, which was a joint venture between the Tatas and British Petroleum. It is called Tata BP Solar India Limited. And we bought their complete systems. We bought the panels, the batteries, the charge regulators, everything from the company. But very soon realized that the electronics that we were getting was not suited for the Indian conditions because it was directly copied from what BP Solar had in the UK. Now, in the UK, the BP Solar technology worked perfectly fine. Technologically, it was perfect. The design was perfect. We had no questions about whether the design was apt, but they did not have the insects that we had in India. They did not have the dust that we had in India. They did not have the challenges that we had in India, and ended up with, them sending us potted. What potted means, electronics which was filled with gel so that it couldn't be rectified, while India needed a totally different thing. We needed solar panels, solar batteries, electronics that could, be repaired locally. It had to be, it could take the temperatures and the dust conditions and the insects that India had. And the British technology was not suitable for that. So we went in through developing these whole thing. We designed a panel, we found a manufacturer, we gave the, the design to a manufacturer, the manufacturer manufactured to us, and then we came up with a solution that was more India, ideal for India. And I think that's where the global South to South partnership happens, because we in India or you in Ethiopia or in other African countries in Latin America have conditions that are not similar to the conditions that are there in the global north. And to be able to bring in technology, to be able to bring in relevant technology into the global south, we need technology that is developed in the global south itself. And I think that's where the south to south cooperation is important. Going beyond technology, even a lot of aspects of whether it is capacity utilization. For example, I don't think anywhere in the global north there would be a challenge of how do you finance an end user? Because credit cards are available, financial institutions are available, they are all financially included. There is no question of financial inclusion being a challenge. While when you come to the global south, these are all challenges. So if you see the pay-as-you-go systems that are so prevalent in Africa today, did not come from the global north. As somebody was speaking earlier today, mobile money did not come from the global north. And in India, we now have what is called the UPI money transfer process, which is, I think, on par with the best in the world as far as money is concerned. But it did not come from the global north. It came out of realities that the global south had, realities that developing countries like ours had. And I think that's where the relevance of the south to south global summit is. So today when we are talking about it, I think we should talk about triangular cooperation, where I agree there is a responsibility of funding to be made available from the global north. There are a lot of lessons that we can take from the global north that can be replicated in the global south. But beyond that, I think we need partners that go beyond governments, go beyond trade, wherein technology and money is given from the global north into the global south, and very often technology that is not relevant or cannot be used here, and talk about a triangular cooperation where we have the global north or countries that can afford it. It could be an India, it could be a China, it could be anybody who can afford it to be putting in money to where development is required, and then use the technology. And I think, Hanok, that's where the innovators that we have in the room have today, because there's so much of knowledge, there's so much of innovation that's happening in the global south that is not being replicated. And I think the challenge there is to find out how do you take technology that is available, innovations that is available in the global south, and take it to other parts of the global south and then find the money to replicate it. And I think that's where this South to South Summit can play a very significant role, like the previous one did, and I think future summits also, where we should be able to say that, okay, this is learnings in the global south that can be passed on to other people who are looking for such learnings.
Thomas, this is too good. I can't let you off the hook without giving us some recommendations. How do we, yes, I agree with you. When I first traveled to India, I was blown away with some of the work you guys are doing. In theory, I understood how everything could work, but it was another thing when I actually saw small farmers and entrepreneurs doing amazingly well with some of these solutions, and the technology is actually fitting their needs, rather than technologies built elsewhere for a different purpose being adopted into the environment. There is so much we can learn from India. There is so much also we can teach India from Africa and maybe Latin America. So this platform is one. Can you add one or two things that we can also do moving forward? I know I'm putting you on the spot.
You are, because I think that's the whole idea of this whole summit. But I think what is important is that we need a platform for this to happen. It's nice to talk about it summits, it's nice to make it, but it took a Selco Foundation to bring in entrepreneurs and people like you to India to be able to showcase those technologies. It took organizations like Precise to be able to say that, yes, we will now bring this back to Ethiopia. And I think there needs a platform if this has to be formalized and accelerated significantly. And I think what is missing today for a lot of the global south is, and for a lot of the innovators, there are excellent innovations available, but who brings an innovation? For example, you will see the innovations outside. Some of them come from India, some of them come from Africa. Who's going to take the innovations from India and take it to Africa? Who's going to, be the glue in the process or be the facilitator in the process? And I think that's what is missing. And I think that organization, it could, I'm not, again, it could be a Selco Foundation, it could be a Precise, it could be a combination of a Selco Foundation and a Precise, or it could be something like what you have, the UN Office for South and South Cooperation, who then, takes this forward and says, okay, this is what we're going to do, but we need this platform to be enabling, to be the enabler to make this happen. Otherwise, it's not going to happen.
Thank you, Thomas. Let me move on to Lemma. So easy to remember your name now. Lemma comes to us from GSMA. I heard your colleague speaking in Kigali a couple of months back. You have very interesting experience, especially in the digitization space. And I would make another argument here. This is a space where the Global South is excelling. I would make a very simple example while His Excellency Atogosai is here with the Ethiopian government. You know, digitization, we were late starters, but I mean, in the last 18 months or to 2 years, we've seen, say, mobile money accounts go from 0 to 70 or 80 million in the space of 18 months. I mean, it's taking up like wildfire because it makes sense for the way we live and the objective conditions on the ground. And that digitization can enable so much development happen. So I understand GSMA has been working on a number of initiatives within that space. What can you tell us about some of those initiatives and how we can actually replicate and scale those?
Thank you. Thank you, Enoch. Yeah, so I'll just briefly describe what we do, and then hopefully, answer the question in that context. So the GSMA, which basically is the GSM Association, is the global membership association of mobile operators, including also organizations from other adjacent sectors to mobile, ecosystem. Within the GSMA, there is a team called Mobile for Development, under the Mobile for Development Foundation, in the GSMA. And basically, its role is to drive, innovation in digital technology, to solve challenges, especially in low and middle income countries. And basically, the strength here is that the foundation sits at the intersection of, the mobile ecosystem and also the development sector. So there is immense power basically in bringing those two sectors together, especially to leverage mobile technology to respond to different challenges around the globe. So we have different programs. We have programs that are supporting financial inclusion, programs that are supporting digital inclusion, so connectivity, especially on the use of mobile internet, so mandating, mobile operators, to close, that gap, the connectivity gap, but also, the skills gap and, the access to mobile internet. At the same time, we have a program that's looking at digital solutions for climate. We have a program that's doing, agri-tech, and the program where I sit in is called Digital Utilities, which is looking at sectors such as energy, water, sanitation, waste management, and transport. And again, it's how do we leverage, digital solutions to deliver those essential services, especially to the underserved populations. So one of the biggest ways that we achieve our mandate is through the GSMA Innovation Fund, which is a grants, fund for early stage innovators. So it's a thematic fund, basically, donor funded through the likes of FCDO, CIDA, and others. So it's thematic, basically aligned, to the different programs. If I can just talk about some numbers around the fund, it's provided around 17 million pounds to 120 organizations in Africa and Asia. And the overall impact is, 36 million people have been impacted. I think crucially, those organizations have gone on to raise something in the round of 560 million, funding, add-on funding, basically. And also crucially, we've supported them to partner with around 80 mobile operators. And the reason partnerships with mobile operators is important. Mobile technology basically in Africa and Asia covers most of the geography. And yet, people are not able to access some of those services that could be, solved through digital solutions. So if I can just talk a little bit about digital solutions that we support in the sectors that I mentioned, especially energy. I think we've mentioned, solar home systems. When that sector started to take off in 2013, I was actually working for a solar home systems company, having also worked with Eric at Equity Group. So at that point, crucially, it was basically business model innovation to put together the pay-as-you-go, facilitated by technology, IoT and others, plus payments. That enabled, solar companies to collect money remotely from customers. And it enabled customers to pay, in small, installments. So the two, digital payments plus the pay-as-you-go model basically made energy access affordable to millions of customers. So that was quite crucial, but not just, in energy, we've seen solutions like, GIS connecting different aspects of service delivery, within cities and also rural areas. We've seen, solutions like smart metering and remote monitoring, making services more reliable, accountable, and driving compliance and, safety of services, especially to the end users. So there is immense advantages of, these technologies actually to making these services more affordable, more connected, more accountable. I think another very good example is how digital platforms, especially the pay-as-you-go solar platforms, in, I believe it's Togo, that it enabled the government to run a very successful subsidies program to the end user. Because, you can send money directly, to a phone number. And, this platform basically, through data, makes the accountability of, let's say, government money, policy or donor money, more accurate. So those are some of the ways that we are, supporting delivery of different services, energy and others through digital solutions.
Thank you. Thank you, Lemma. I'm going to go to the audience now. So we've been talking from this side the entire time. So if you have any questions or comments, please raise your hands. We have been incredibly clear. It's an excellent panel. Yeah. I'm starting to see hands. So just rules of engagement here. Please, when you ask a question, introduce yourself very briefly and try to ask your question in 2 or 3 minutes so that we allow for as many people as possible to ask the questions. Gentleman in the back in the glasses, please introduce yourself.
Hi, morning everybody. My name is Ganesh Neelam. I represent Sustain Plus Energy Foundation from India. The question is basically to all the panelists. We have been talking about the importance of international collaboration or the global South-South collaboration as well. I just wanted to understand what is the challenge which is holding us to do this at the next level of scale, because maybe it's happening in a one-to-one mechanism, but the problem is so high that we need to look at it in a more different manner from a scaled engagement. So I just wanted to understand from the panelists what is actually holding us to do this at the next level.
Excellent. What is stopping us from taking this to the next level? Over there, gentlemen. Please raise your hand so they can see you with the microphone. There it is. Okay. So please introduce yourself.
Yep. Thank you. My name is Adunya. I'm from the World Resource Institute, from the regional office based in Addis Ababa here. My first question goes to the representative from GIAP. Is more of a practical question. I know a project or initiative that has started around 2020 in Ethiopia, the DREAM project or DREAM initiative, which involved multi-stakeholder partners and also has kind of multi-level governance structure. And now it is almost around 4 years since it has started. I want to know if you share kind of practical lessons that you have already generated from implementation of this DREAM initiative, and if you have any plan for scaling to other geographies or other areas in the country and beyond to other African countries as well. And my second point is around maybe any one of any one of you can also share your experience on because we are talking about collaboration, and we are also in the energy space, we do have multi-stakeholder partners from global, regional to national or some national levels along this development process. So in this context, do we have any collaboration framework that can really enhance our collaboration or synergies toward this really ensuring or causing the SDGs having goals that we are really desiring for, and that can also minimize maybe competition, which is there between the stakeholders or among the partners in this space, instead of collaboration, instead of synergizing our efforts and using resources, allocating resources toward this, like the most priority areas in the energy development nexus. Thank you.
Thank you, Adunya. I can take maybe 2 more questions. Lady on the left. Oh, you have already one? Okay, thank you for usurping authority.
Thank you. My name is Sheikh Usei. I come from the Fisheries and Marine Resources Ministry in Sierra Leone. I'm heading the division for artisanal fisheries. We are actually considering alternative energy solutions for the artisanal fishery sector. We have over 641 landing sites, and we want to see how we can collaborate with people who have achieved these solutions to see how we can make available alternative energy sources for fish processing, fish preservation. Apparently, we have vast mangrove forests in some of the river systems where we have made marine protected areas. And we want to see how we can protect those mangroves. The fishermen, the fish women are actually cutting the mangroves to smoke fish because they don't have access to ice, and they don't have access to freezing opportunities in the communities. Yes, we've started with a small project with the UNDP where we provided solar-powered freezers for the communities, about 200 freezers just to help them, but that is not enough. We have 641 landing sites. What can we do to solve the problem of preserving the mangroves, which have the opportunity to sequester CO2 from the atmosphere and contribute towards climate change mitigation? So how can we stop the fishermen? They are willing, but they are interested in alternative solutions. So this could be an opportunity to hear from the panel how we can collaborate. We could look at perhaps bankable solution where we can make available ice producing plants in the communities to produce ice for the fishermen. They could pay for it, and then the business person can still get what they are investing. We can also look at grant opportunities for deprived communities to make available to them, maybe to scale up the solar freezer project opportunity that we are already trying to promote. So, yeah. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. The lady over there, we encourage more of you to be speaking up here.
Good morning. My name is Lydia Wangwa from Elico Foundation. I'd like to thank the panelists for their wise contributions, but I had a bit of an observation in relation to leveraging financial solutions, Because at the end of the day, if you're talking about bringing all these solutions like technology transfer, at the end of the day, you will have to have, finance in place. So how are the financial institutions, the one in the South, positioned to facilitate all these things to happen? For instance, like from Equity Foundation, the leverage in terms of Equity Bank, how are they prepared to finance renewable energy? So in the aspect of manners like special rates for, funding for these projects, or, how to take and upscale what is already done by other southern countries for replication. So what has the initiatives been? Because you also spoke about funding for entrepreneurs, but then we have a lot of entrepreneurs and associations that are stuck with no energy in place. But so what are the type of solutions and packages that are available at real time, if there is any?
Thank you. I think there's, oh wow, the hands are multiplying. If I can ask you to be very brief and address your questions, please. There's 2 questions at that table,
Yeah.
and we can close it.
Yeah, hello. My name is Ayan, and I represent Sustain Plus. So I was part of the previous South-South summit in Bengaluru, and today also I'm here. And both the conferences has huge energy flowing. My question is, there was to Thomas sir and to Hanoch, like how your experience of this last 2 years have been with regard to the collaboration. While I understand this is a highly techno-managerial collaboration, but what are the challenges that you have faced? One is the challenge, are the challenges softer, like the cultural issues or any behavioral change issues, that you face while doing the collaboration? Just want to go beyond the techno-managerial aspect of collaboration. So, want to understand that.
Hello, my name is Pasi. I come from Savannah Circuit Technologies. We manufacture solar-powered cooling equipment for the dairy value chain. And my question today goes to Lema and a gentleman from Selco Foundation. My specific question is on the PEGO model. I would want to learn about the successes so far, because I understand if we look at it from the perspective of NGOs or development partners, it would be an easy alternative or a solution to push the solutions to the poor. But what is the sustainability aspect around it? What is the success rate? If we could hear from Lema, how is it working from the use cases that we've had? How is the repayment? How is the success? And the second question to Selco is, how did they manage, or how do they manage to sell to the poor, or how do they manage to have their solutions pushed or received by the poor?
Thank you. Anshul, do you really need to ask that question? Should I give you 30 seconds? Okay. Okay, thank you. Let me come back to our panel now. Unfortunately, we've taken up most of the time, so I will ask you to take maybe only 1 minute, address the ones that are most relevant to you, and then what I would encourage is let's continue the conversation during coffee break, the rest of the day, and then tomorrow also. Let me start with Makena.
So I'll address the challenges that are stopping us from leveling up, and then the question around DREAM, if that's all right. I think from the lessons we've learned at the Global Energy Alliance is that open and transparent dialogue has been really difficult. The transparency to say, value in that collaboration and partnership, what are you really looking to get out of it? You as an individual partner, but you as a collective, and being extremely transparent about that, and not trying to be diplomatic, anything is possible, everything is possible, we are open to anything. That doesn't get you there fast enough in your collaboration. I think also investing in the capacity of the organization that's going to drive that collaboration together, that South-South collaboration. So for example, in the South-South, right, Selco Foundation Precise, having the funds to actually do the work and the capacity to do that. Also at the Alliance, us having a section of our own organization, people dedicated to advancing the Alliance, and that is their full-time job, that really makes a difference. And the leadership. So it has to start from the leaders already agreeing that it's important, and voicing that and really driving that. And we have a Global Leadership Council that has the principles of many of the organizations we seek to alliance with already sitting in a room together, and that sends the message down the chain that it's important to collaborate. On the DREAM side, my colleague, our head of Ethiopia, Inas, is in the room, so she can answer many, many detailed questions about why it's taken this long to get to where we are, but also some of the successes and the firsts that DREAM has managed to achieve. But I'll say it's about aligning on ambition and pace, right? All the funders being able to fund at the pace that is required for the project. That is a massive lesson learned. You bring in partners for what they can bring to the partnership too, but also they tend to have their own constraints, especially in funding timelines. So that has been a challenge, and that leads to which partners do you bring around the table, right, for the pace that you're looking for. I think being able to pivot quickly when the microeconomic challenges or the external situation changed, that is something we have learned. How do we pivot that and do that faster and quicker? And will we scale to other countries? Absolutely. We're interested in distributed renewable energies being really flowing across the continent, not just in Ethiopia. But there are some really specific and special things about the way DREAM is put together in Ethiopia that must be in place in other countries. For example, the ACCs and the way farmers are organized, for us to replicate in the same way. So in other countries, we are choosing different modalities, but really still pushing on the distributed renewables.
Thank you for being on. Very brief and to the point, succinct.
Thanks. I'll answer the question on financing. We struggled a little bit 10 years ago, but I think after a lot of data and learning, we have done 4 things. And today we have financed about 450,000 different technologies for households and institutions and farmers and all that. So the first thing we did is look at the product, how to structure the product for different segments of the market, whether it's a farmer looking for a water solution or water pumping, solar irrigation, and all that, all the way to an industry that is processing fish in Sierra Leone, crafting different solutions and having different terms. Whether it's interest rates, we don't charge commercial rates of interest for these kind of solutions because we utilize de-risking instruments. We look for partners who are able to offer de-risking instruments. Number 3, we use an ecosystem approach in financing. And I'll give an example that will also answer the question from the gentleman from Sierra Leone because we are working in that aquaculture ecosystem. Just last month, we financed a fish processing farm that is doing octopus to put solar for processing of their fish. I did not take any security for that loan because he's working through an ecosystem. You can see who are the off-takers of the octopus. You can see how much he has done over the last couple of months. So you are basing my credit assessment not on the guy who is processing octopus, but on the off-taker of that. That removes the need for security. And the last thing is capacity building, training of our people, very, very important. So that is what we have done on the product side, to make it affordable, to make it answer to the income cycles of the person who you are financing. It's very important. A loan to a farmer to acquire irrigation pump is totally different from, a loan to an SME. And probably in the afternoon we'll be speaking about these things in a little bit more detail. We utilize the PayGo system as well, but what we have done is to make it sustainable is to connect the PayGo technology with our core banking, so that then the Paygo company does not need to have the capital to deploy the equipment. They can ride on Equity's balance sheet. And then I utilize the local technology as an extra payment enforcement mechanism. So we are also leveraging on the Paygo side.
Okay, thank you. So I'll just touch on the Paygo model as well, and then just maybe a little bit on solar freezers. As Eric has mentioned, Paygo model has become, really big in Africa, especially through, the solar home systems companies, the members of Gogla, which are now big businesses across the globe. So I think in terms of success, the companies grew from, small companies scaling across the continent, millions of customers, acquiring these devices, and basically also the companies growing and raising a lot of money. So I think that has been, it's been successful in that instance. Are there challenges? Definitely. Affordability, some repayment issues. And so it was very important to have such an organization, an association of those companies through Gogla that addresses some of those challenges that the sector is facing, which basically all sectors face. So through the association, some of those issues were addressed. How do you address affordability, customer facing, challenges and all that. So the model has been quite successful. I think the other good thing, and we've done a lot of research around this, is basically to look at the benefit to the customer. And we noted that when a customer starts paying for energy, they also start to access other digital services. They can go to charge their phones, they buy more data and airtime. And so basically, they access more benefits through the Paygo model. And mobile operators also, identified this and basically, started supporting the ecosystem because it has a lot of financial benefit to them. So there's a lot of research that you can find actually through our website on that model. The other aspect of Paygo that we are currently testing is on cooling. So basically, solar freezers. We recently funded a company out of Nigeria called Coolbox that is providing solar freezers to fishmongers. So especially, women in fish markets. And basically, how do you make these solar freezers more affordable? How do you incorporate the Paygo model? How do you, tie it with IoT for monitoring and all that? So we're quite excited to share, insights from that project very soon. And I think briefly, very briefly, on the financing side, we also released a report recently called Innovative Finance, which is looking at how companies can leverage technology to access different financial mechanisms, especially at the stage where they have grown beyond grants and they're not yet too big, to access, let's say, bigger bank loans. So basically, addresses things like results-based financing, receivables, and things like that. So that report is also available, and we'll be happy to share it.
Thank you. I actually want to address that multi-stakeholder mechanism that one of the gentlemen asked about. I mean, just want to give an example of what has worked for us and what Arena is promoting, especially from the point of view of productive use and social infrastructure energy for these two sectors. I mean, what we are really pushing for is a country program approach or programmatic approach, because what we have found out in many countries is that most of those projects, especially small scales, are done in a very isolated manners. And most of the systems, or a lot of systems in different countries, are not working because they were just installed and then people forgot about it. So the operation, maintenance, all those systems were never in place. Then the new donor comes in, or new partners comes in, install more systems, and then the thing goes on. What we are really pushing is for a programmatic approach is that the government leads the program, owns the program, leads it, and all development partners comes in, become part of the program, and find an alignment of their priorities, plan of action or preferences under the same program, and then develop some form of a solution that they all push for it, and that is also long-term and sustainable. So the way we are doing is that Arena is going as a technical partner, but we have financial partners, as I already explained, and development partners on the ground, plus the communities and NGOs become part of that program. We are going with the technical solutions, the financial needs, the O&M models, and then we expect other development partners to pick those details and develop and implement those programs. So just very quickly, the successful example I can give is that Sao Tome and Principe, which we have recently concluded. So what Arena did there with Selco Foundation is that we did a detailed country assessment. We come up with the technical designs for each category of their healthcare facilities and then come up with the cost estimates. That gave us like a funding needs for the electrification of healthcare facilities in the country, the whole health infrastructure. That came around $10.25 million, including hospitals. Then we were already coordinating with UNDP and UNICEF in the country. So what they did is that they picked our analysis, they developed a proposal, they submitted to their donors, and they raised around 4.25 million. So instead of them starting a thing from the scratch, this type of a platform provided that it was efficient, it was cost effective, and it was like a joint effort that was done for the government. So now they have secured a part of the total funding requirements that they're going to implement it. So this is what we are pushing for. So this is one of the, I think, the successful model that we think can also be adopted in other countries for sustainability of those switched DRE solutions.
I'm aware of the time constraint that we have, but if we were to, club the questions into two lots, I think, especially specific to what I could respond to, one would be, what are the challenges to scale South-to-South collaborations, and the other being, including, how do you minimize competition, and the other being, how do we facilitate financing for such thing. I think I could answer it in one question, and as I mentioned when I spoke earlier, there is no dedicated platform that looks at South-to-South. Different organizations are looking at collaborations, whether it is, the Selco Foundation, whether it is Precise. I think there needs to be a concentrated effort in facilitating this, because when you talk about South-to-South cooperation, you're also talking about where do you find the money for that? Where do you find the markets for that? What happened to the royalties of the companies that own these technologies? So all these questions need to be addressed by one entity that can facilitate this. And that platform is what is significantly missing in the world today. And I think the South-to-South conference that we have here, a follow-up of what we had in Bangalore 2 years back, should lead to somebody coming up and filling that gap. And if that gap is filled, then a lot of things can be facilitated. And then it's a question of how do you scale? Because global scaling requires somebody who can look at this in a very dedicated manner rather than look at it as one of the activities that they also do. As far as the how do you minimize competition, I think if there's some way that different partners in the process can be compensated, we could minimize all sort of competition except who is going to take credit for it, which I think is not a question that I will be able to answer at all, because that's not in my realm. And the third question for Selco specifically was, how do you sell to the poor? I think I'll address that because it's a very specific question from a technology perspective, and from a technology provider as an organization. I think I can discuss with a specific person over tea as we continue. Yeah.
Wow, we are about 12 minutes over, so I will not try and summarize this very rich conversation with very rich panel. Just quickly to address the question directed at me, our partnership with Selco Foundation and Global SDG 7 Hubs is quite unique. We're not really used to this sort of collaboration. In fact, the alignment question itself that you've asked is a very relevant one in here. In this, I would call it quote unquote industry, we have created a development industry where there is quite a lot of competition. And that does, we need to be very frank and open about it. And that does sometimes pull us backwards instead of forwards. Instead of talking about helping to solve the problems of the poor, or enabling these innovators and entrepreneurs who are solving some of those problems, sometimes it's about elbowing each other and positioning each other towards being able to, in some cases, save the poor. we're competing to save the poor, and we've complained for years about how the North has tried to save us, and now some of us in the South are also somewhat doing it. And it's been a challenge, even working with very much like-minded organizations like Selco. Doesn't ask to be credited for what they do for us, always puts us forward, always says, look, how can we collaborate to solve problems? How can we learn from you guys as much as you can learn from us? And still, we don't have that model. We're only used to partnering with other organizations and sharing the work and revenues that come from it, or working with an organization that is funding us, and it's more like a boss and worker kind of relationship. It's a very unusual relationship we have here. So in some cases, on a day-to-day basis, we sort of relapse to one of the two sort of characters, and then we have to stop and say, no, this is not the way it's supposed to be. So it's very challenging, and is in many ways, it's an example of how we might be able to collaborate at a higher level. It is very important that we all align ourselves, and I really champion and respect and support the partnership that this organization is being built upon, and I hope this will go to the next stage. I hope this platform will continue, but then as Thomas also said, that we have other platforms that will allow us to talk to each other. Selco Foundation has developed a solutions portal, for example, which they have been asking us, can you also work with us to put solutions providers from across the continent on this platform, right? This is another way of doing it. Maybe the next time we do this event, we have more of our entrepreneurs and our innovators coming here so they can talk to each other, so they can partner with each other. So that way, we can all drive towards the same destination. Unfortunately, we have a long way to go in order to be able to do that. With that, I would ask you, please, to thank this fantastic panel for me, for coming all the way from all corners of the world to share their time and knowledge with us. Thank you.
The title of this panel is, as I said, Role of Productive Use of Renewable Energy in Poverty Reduction. The discussion is on the utilization of PURE for poverty reduction, and experience sharing sessions from global PUSE sector players on ongoing programs. And our moderator, as I said, is Ms. Savati. She's an independent DRA consultant and mentor. She is an independent DRA consultant and mentor guiding DRA enterprises and nonprofits in the areas of innovation, product development, technology transfer, and policy analysis. She was associated with several organizations in India in clean energy. Her area of work is largely in fuel-efficient cookstove design and dissemination through local networks in tidy and nonprofit organization, and from Sustain Take, a private limited company, implementing a business model for institutional and commercial stoves designed by herself. And she was the chair of Clean Energy Access Network, a network of practitioners in decentralized renewable energy. She also carries out training programs in biomass conservation, gender and sustainable energy, and planning or monitoring energy access projects. She has studied chemical engineering and is an alumnus of Indian Institute of Technology in Bombay. And she has played a crucial role in shaping the space around sustainable technology innovation and dissemination, grassroots entrepreneurship models, and associated policy initiatives through TID and Sustain Tech. Please welcome our moderator with a round of applause. Now our speakers. The first of our speakers is Waringa Matandi, Chief Executive Officer of Waringa Matandi. She is CEO of Waringa Matandi. Matandi is currently Chief Executive Officer of... Oh, she did? Yeah. She wants to? Okay, then I'll skip to the others. Please give me a second. Then our other panelist is Ms. Imal Merema. She is an advocate of clean energy in the East African energy sector, and a former Mandela Washington Fellowship fellow and with extensive experience in internal auditing and program management. And Emela holds a Master of Science degree in economics from Università, sorry, this is Italian, Università della Svizzera Italiana in Switzerland. I'm sorry about this. And currently serving as a program officer with the Kakute project in Arusha, Tanzania. The work of Emel focuses on promoting technology, innovation, clean energy adoption, and community livelihood improvement. She is passionate about sustainable development, and she aspires to be a Sustainable Development Goal Ambassador and aligning with Africa's Agenda 2063 and the 2030 Agenda for Sustainable Development. Please welcome our panelists with a round of applause. And our other panelist is Ms. Brenda Obilo. She's a program manager, and Brenda is a program manager at Good Energies Foundation, responsible for managing and overseeing the clean energy grant making in Africa. Her program management experience spans 11 years, and she has worked on various socioeconomic developing issues ranging from building resilient livelihoods in the arid and semi-arid lands of northern Kenya, while at Christian Aid to disbursement of research grants to generate knowledge and evidence on processing development issues in 13 African countries, including energy needs of refugees in Uganda at the International Development Research Center, IDRC, and to delivering a white paper focused on environmental, social, and governance, investing in the role of business in contributing to climate change at the Thomson Reuters Foundation. She has a keen interest in just energy transitions, sustainable inclusive growth, and working with local organizations to respond to current development needs in Africa. Brenda has a master's degree in poverty reduction, inclusive growth from SOSA, and her research focused on the role of social enterprises in promoting energy access in Kenya. And without further ado, I'll turn it over to our moderator, but still we have one of our panelists who would like to introduce herself.
Waringa, please introduce yourself.
Hello everybody, I am Warenga Matindi and I'm the CEO for Village Energy. And I have been at Village Energy for the last 6 years. Before that, for about 14 years, I worked in the gender and development sector. I really did love the work, but it was very clear for me that poverty was both a cause and an effect of all the work and the interventions that we were addressing. And therefore, I desired to work in something and a cause that really addressed poverty and brought money directly into people's pockets. So when my interview at Village Energy with one of the founders, Abu, I remember asking him, okay, how do the clients make money? What is the impact? And he told me that 100% of the businesses that Village Energy had worked with all reported improved incomes. And that really was the hook for me to join the social enterprise space. It was a very steep learning curve, and I'm glad that I got training from Ashoka, from Miller Center. I'm also an alumni of Columbia Business School, and I'm also happy that up to today I can definitely vouch for what Abu said, that 100% of all the businesses that we work with, they all report improved revenues.
Thank you. Can you hear me at the very end there? I think that's the deepest spot. Thank you. Thank you. Yeah. We had a very interesting session in the morning. If I had to summarize the morning session in 2 words, I think it would be think global. But now I am bringing this session down to act local. And so let's see how far we are able to localize this session and pick up local issues, and then, a completely different perspective from what the morning session was all about. So the title of this session is Role of Productive Use Renewable Energy in Poverty Reduction. We have very 2 difficult words to understand and to navigate through in this panel in the 60 minutes that are available to us. Poverty is one word. it has several dimensions. It could be as simple as lack of money. But when you talk to a poor family, they describe to you what they are going through. They talk of poor health, they talk of malnutrition, they talk of lack of water, lack of electricity, very little education, no infrastructure, lack of opportunities for income generation, sustenance. So even as we keep in mind that the poverty is multidimensional, and accept that focusing on one aspect of poverty alone cannot transform the true reality of poverty, I think in this session we will focus on the role of productive use renewable energy, PURE for short, for poverty reduction. I have just seen the agenda for today, and I think there are dedicated sessions for PURE for other aspects of how we use productive use renewable energy to tackle other problems. So I think this session we will be focusing on poverty. The other difficult word that we have to understand is the word productive use. I'm not sure, at least in my mind, if we have a clear definition of productive use, maybe by the end of the session or in the sessions that would follow, things would become a lot clearer. But as I was talking to my fellow panelists, we were discussing whether does it include renewable energy technologies and applications for health, for use in homes, in schools, or is it just limited to agricultural, commercial, industrial activities? Where would you be placing lighting and cooking in the RE, renewable energy productive use product mix? So these RE technologies, they save time for productive use income work. So if you're saving 1 hour of cooking time, then you can use that 1 hour productively for income generation. How would you use that? The other aspect of it is refrigerators, freezers. They reduce wastage, and so they increase incomes. What about energy efficiency, an area that I have worked on extensively, where you can do more with less, So these are some of the questions, that keeps popping up in my mind time and again. So I think my first question to the panel would be about what, according to you, is productive use. We have a great diversity in the panel. In case you missed the very long introductions, I will in short say that Brenda represents philanthropy, Waringa represents the social enterprise sector, and Emma represents the non-profit sector. So I'm sure we have 3 different aspects and dimensions to discuss. So I will go to Brenda first. What, according to you, is productive use?
Thanks, Swati. I hope you can all hear me clearly. So productive use, how I look at it, and also how we look at it as an organization, is any technology that adds value to the person that is using it. So this value could be monetary, so that is income. It's either increasing income or it's generating more income. But there's an aspect of value that is less talked about, and sometimes it raises a bit of a debate, and that is productivity in the essence of improving welfare for someone, or even lessening hardship. So what do I mean by this? So if you take the example of healthcare, especially in rural areas where there's no access to consistent power, if they get consistent power, then it means residents in rural areas can access health services should they need that. So the fact that the power has enabled health service and somebody in a rural area accesses health for their well-being, it's a value in itself. And why is it a value? Most people who are economically disadvantaged, one of their main sources of, let's say, capital or resource is themselves. So that is human capital. So if they are feeling okay, if they are well, then it means they are able to go on about their activities. And also, if you look at something like light, if a household has access to light and the lighting system, it means their children are able to study or even have access to, let's say, internet service if they're able to charge their phones. So the fact that there isn't really a monetary value attached to the value that somebody is getting from it, does it mean that it is less productive? To us, we think it is not. So we are not only looking at the income or the monetary value of the productive element, but how is it also making life better for the person that is using the energy?
Thanks. I think you have just expanded the scope of productive use. I thought I had expanded it, but you've gone far beyond what I have done. So I will put the same question to Emma. What, according to you, is productive use? You can take this.
Thank you for the question. So for me, energy for productive use. Okay, so thank you for the question. For me, energy for productive use is like the installation of various energy solutions. So with regards to the organization I'm working with, which is, as you know, is Kakute Projects, we deal with renewable energy solutions, and more specifically, we deal with solar energy solutions. And we identify various entrepreneurs, and then we come up with solutions to meet their needs in terms of, for example, when we talk about farmers or who are irrigating their farms and perhaps they're having solutions that are not of value, or they need to increase the productivity of their produce. If perhaps they were using a solution like a generator, then we come up with a solution for irrigating, such as solar water pumps, which everyone knows. So it's more like, for me, coming up with a solution that improves the livelihoods of those who are in rural areas. And like, we look at it in terms of income, we look at it in terms of productivity, and that, yeah, thank you.
Yeah, thanks. Waringa, I'll come to you. First question is, you run a social enterprise. Would you call it a productive use enterprise?
Yes. And for us, the reason why we call it productive use is really because of the money. Because, you know, we are, like Emma has said, is about how much more money that the entrepreneur or the business that we are working with. And as much I also like Brenda's expansion, for us, about 70% of our clients are businesses. You know, they are schools, they are health centers, they are shops. So it's already somebody who's involved in some income generating project and activity. So what we are doing is enhancing that, you know, making it more efficient, making it faster, reducing their power bills. And so for us, we have really that focus on the money. Of course, then that means 30% of our businesses, of our clients, are households who now can afford our intervention. And for us, we're like, okay, we know that this has improved your life. But for us now, we're like, okay, thank you for giving us business, but when we are counting our clients for productive use, we're definitely focusing on the businesses.
Yeah, being an entrepreneur, I can understand your focus is, as you said, exclusively on earning money, not for your enterprise alone, but you enable income generation by others as well. And not just businesses, but also households. As you said, some 30% of your people whom you sell to are business households. So, Waringa, just a supplementary question for you is that what would be your wish list? Because you know you have to flourish in an ecosystem. And what would be your wish list if you were to design an ecosystem for pure enterprises? What would you like to see in that ecosystem?
Okay, that's a very broad question, and of course I have like 50 things I would like to, I would wish for, and good thing Eric is here, and we had a very rich panel in the morning. So for me as an entrepreneur, one of the things that I would like to see for myself as for me as somebody who's providing solar solutions is reduced interest. One of the things that kills our business and us is the interest, that we get from commercial banks specifically, and the lack of, even overdrafts, the challenges that we have accessing money that can help us run and is not going to choke our business. It's a good thing that there's a lot of funding that is now available and mechanisms that are available for the end users. We have PAYGO, we have again also the financial institutions coming in to give solar loans. I also wish the same grace could be extended to the entrepreneurs. On a broader level, in terms of the ecosystem, I would like us to go beyond the people in the sector. You see, our end users are in very specific environments, and they have their own challenges within that environment. For example, right now, Village Energy, we got a very good subsidy from CLASP. Thank you, McKenna, and your team. And we also have a partnership with Equity Bank Uganda, where they give loans to solar loans to our clients at a very subsidized interest rate. However, we still see challenges with the women entrepreneurs accessing the solar loan. And that now has nothing to do with the price. It has nothing to do with access to financing. It has to do with how women approach banking and how they see loans. So then it means that we can do our very best, but then we also need now to go a step further and get another bird's eye view and see what is the challenges that this end user or this entrepreneur or this person who wants to access the system, what other challenges are they having? Systemic challenges that they're having, the gendered challenges that they're having, and who then can we bring on board to be able to push and to help them and to influence them so that then they can be able to access what is available. So I would say in a nutshell, we go beyond our sector, and then we really immerse ourselves in our users and the challenges, the other challenges that are not necessarily tied to access to energy, and then see how that we can work towards that and help them improve their perception or even the information that they access, and then they can be able to make more informed decisions.
Yeah, thanks. I was just taking notes as you were speaking, and you mentioned reduce interest, consumer finance, end user financing, go beyond people in the sector. You want donors and equity banks also, Equity Bank also as a part of your ecosystem. You see women, challenges in women accessing solar loans. So it's still all about money.
Well, I think money is the lowest hanging fruit at this point.
How?
Because we know, poverty is injustice, right? And when somebody doesn't have enough resources to live a dignified life, that really affects, their whole life. The choices that they can make, the decisions that the information that they have access to. So then, if we give them this one thing that is easy for them to grasp and say, okay, now I have an extra $10 or $50 or $1,000. Then now from there, so then at least their immediate needs, right, they're taken care of. Then I think now when you have a well-fed person, when you have a healthy person, then I think then the entry point for other interventions is easier, as opposed to talking to somebody who's did not eat 2 days ago, or their children are home from they don't have school fees, and many other challenges that we know. the people who are living in poverty face.
Yeah, so it means that you're talking of access to financing at different levels and for different people. Is that right? If I've understood it correctly?
What do you mean?
No, like access, first of all, your end users need to be trained in how to access money, especially when you mentioned that women get challenges. So that is one, money access for your end users, money access for you as a business enterprise, and generally if the users who use your pure renewable energy products also earn money, then according to you, that is access to money at different levels by different people at different stages will help in poverty alleviation, poverty reduction, with all the things that you are doing. Is your major handicap money, is what I'm asking you once again?
Yes and no, but again, as I said, it is the easiest way to get buy-in on the end users. Show them the money, and then now other things you can be able now to influence. Because I think Harish said something that we need to center, the people that we are working with. They need to be at the center of this conversation. Unfortunately, at this point in time, they don't have the resources. They also don't have the confidence to come in and sit here and say, I want, and I want. But then now, once they see the money and that there is a potential for additional revenues, over time, of course, then I think it will be easier then for them to get more confident and then have a voice, because they do have the solutions for their problems.
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah.
You remind me of my days as a social entrepreneur, where I was delivering fuel-efficient commercial stoves for various end users. I found that with access to money, my end users were becoming far richer, whereas my enterprise was still struggling. And that is when I also did a deep dive into ecosystems, and I found that money is only one element of it, but if my team was better skilled, if my team was more motivated, and a whole lot of, if I had to provide additional services, then my definition of an ecosystem as I had conceived it is a little different from the ecosystem that you are conceiving it for productive use of renewable energy. But I think I will take it to Emma now. Do you know, you know that Kakute also is working at the ecosystem level?
Yes, we are.
And what do you prioritize there?
Okay, so I said that we're an NGO, and basically what we do is we have initiatives whereby we use renewable energy or solar-powered solutions in order to improve the livelihoods of small-scaled entrepreneurs, farmers in the agricultural sector, and other types of entrepreneurs. So the types of solutions that we've had so far include solar-powered business centers, solar-powered tailoring centers, digital centers, which we've seen have improved various aspects of these entrepreneurs' lives. But in terms of the larger part of an ecosystem, Kakute is part of a large ecosystem for Puari in Tanzania. There are many stakeholders with different roles to play. And this is really important, involving partnerships in order to make the progress using Puari to reduce poverty. So although there is a challenge when we talk about coordinating the dynamics of energy, the energy ecosystem, and to ensure the sustainability of long-term impact, I believe that if each stakeholder understands its role and also considers the role of other stakeholders, there could be a bigger impact. So what I'm trying to say is that we have the government, in which in our projects we involve the government at all levels, not just for the policies, but they have the practical navigation on the ground. They have the knowledge and the influence in the communities. So as an NGO, Kakute, we implement our projects using community needs assessment. We offer capacity training to train our entrepreneurs in business management skills, and we also, raise awareness because we want different community members to foster this, foster the use of puree. But we also have other stakeholders, as I said. We have educational institutes who come in and train graduates or solar technicians, of which they are the ones who go into the field to design these solutions and to implement them. So their role in providing the necessary skills for them to be, for them to provide relevant and efficient technologies. But we also have our microfinance institutes, of which Moringa also talked about, their role in providing, providing economic finances, investments, in order for them to provide support to our entrepreneurs to grow. But we also have the local energy suppliers, of which I've spoken about, and they play a really critical role, these graduates, because what they do is they need to provide the reliable and efficient technologies so that they ensure technology maintenance and they support the entrepreneurs, and so that there is sustainability. So overall, I believe that partnerships, and this is what Kakute is using, partnerships is really important in order to bring this whole ecosystem idea together. Thank you.
Yeah, so just a small supplementary question. Have you seen significant poverty reduction while you're working at the ecosystem? So in whichever regions you are working, where the ecosystem is robust, your poverty reduction is faster, more, better?
Yes, we have seen it particularly in the northern part of Tanzania. When I talk about the northern part, there are regions such as Manyara and Kilimanjaro and Arusha. In those particular areas, you see that solutions such as the business center, solar power solutions for business centers, you see differences in terms of the social interaction. You see income improving. We had a solar-powered solution for an educational center for nursery students in a particular rural area in Manyara. And what we've seen there is more access to education. You see that the distance where the students had to travel, maybe they had to travel 3 kilometers walking. Now it's been reduced to maybe 1.5. So there are things that you can see have brought an impact across the northern part of Tanzania. Thank you.
So you made a very interesting statement just now. You said that productive use, products, energy access leads to poverty reduction. And when poverty is reduced, there is a whole way in which society transforms itself. So it is in a way, the end goal of Pure is not just poverty reduction, but what happens to people once they come out of poverty. Yes. That is what you have seen and what you have experienced.
Yes, you see an improvement in terms of access to education. You also see things like access to health when you have lighting. So there are various elements that, they receive a majority of an impact. Thank you.
Yeah, it's a very insightful statement that you've made, Emma. I come back to you, Brenda. You represent a philanthropic organization, and what role do you think that organizations like yours will play in poverty reduction?
I think the most obvious, and also to go back to Waringa's comment on money being a very important issue. So for a philanthropic organization, definitely is to avail the finances. And I think in the earlier session, McKenna said that in as much as we're waiting for loss and damage reparations from northern countries to contribute to climate change that we can use for other thematic areas under climate change, renewable energy being one of them. Grant money has the advantage of not being conditional. So if I take the example of good energies, one of the approach that we use, and I think some of our partners in the room can also attest to that, is when we give grants, we want to make it as flexible and as nimble as possible. So where is the partner going to use it to meet its core need? Sometimes it's not necessarily implementing a program directly, but it's also just building the organization's capacity to be able to deliver and work in the sector efficiently. So I would say definitely it's availing funds, and also to contribute to the ecosystem discussion. Again, as an organization, we try to take an ecosystem approach because we know one element of the ecosystem is not going to solve the problem. So even if we have money, but the policy environment is not conducive for us to use decentralized renewable energy, then there's no point. If we have money and the enterprises or those in the sector do not have the knowledge or the skills on how to develop the technology, or even the end users themselves do not have the knowledge on how to use the technology, there's no point. If there is no communications in terms of building a narrative around the sector, PUE, and what it can do in terms of socioeconomic development, then money really ceases to be important. So there are various parts of the ecosystem, and all of them need to work together in terms of having a common goal. And for us, it's two. So the end users have access not only to the technology, but they're able to afford it. And the enterprises are able to work in a conducive environment and also have access to the money that they need to develop the technology. Yeah, so in an essence, it's money, but there are other elements that support the money.
So I'm tempted to ask you one more question, Brenda. That's because yesterday when we were discussing, over dinner, you mentioned that something interesting. You said that there are degrees of poverty, and the role of productive use of energy, renewable energy, should be different for different degrees of poverty.
So poverty is often looked at from a financial view. So do people have money or do they not? And if they have money, to what extent do they have this money? Do they have little money? Do they have a lot of money? Do they have extra money? So when you're looking at poverty, in as much as how we're looking at it has evolved over the years, so in terms of the multidimensional aspect in looking at poverty, we still sort of default to the system. Do people have money or do people not have money? So if you're looking at PUE interventions, we need to decide which group of the poor are we targeting. There are those in absolute poverty and there are those in relative poverty. A common, again, approach is to target those who sort of are able to have a baseline of some sort to be able to afford the energy technology. So even if they're not able to pay upfront for it, they're able to make a down payment, and if they're given financial payment plans, they're able to fulfill. But what about the group of people who are in dire, not only energy poverty, but general poverty in themselves? Who is looking out for them? I see Patrick from Gogla in the room, and last year they told us that there are 277 million people in abject poverty, and nobody is concerned about them in terms of getting renewable DRE to them, and more specifically, pure. So when we're talking about poverty, which group of poor people are we targeting as a sector? And more often than not, we tend to go to the ones that are sort of better off than the ones who actually need the solutions, which makes sense. Waringa again talked about money, and from a social enterprise point of view, they still need to be able to operate in as much as they're meeting a social good. So we need to be clear as a sector on who we are targeting, but even as we're targeting those who have relative ease, let's also not forget about those who are in abject poverty and come up with mechanisms of how we can reach them. I know one that is almost coming up and an alternative to PayGo is energy as a service. It can actually help those in energy, not necessarily energy poverty, but those who are really poor to access the energy. And after that, translate it into something productive that gives them some sort of money and income in their pocket.
Yeah, so the approach, as you say it, for people to bring people out of abject poverty reduction could perhaps be just donating a productive use enterprise, renewable energy enterprise, because they will not be able to access loans. So they maybe donation, a welfare approach is the way to go for some people who are living in abject poverty, perhaps. Right.
Yes, and there have been, in the past instances where, for example, cash transfers have been used to target such groups. So where, again, players like NGOs and CSOs can avail cash, and then a family or an individual can go and access some technology that is based on renewable energy. And of course, in certain instances, and we have a partner that did this, grant money, where the CSO in question actually purchases the equipment on behalf of the household or the individual and then gives it to them as a gift to be able to make something out of it. So there are options that we need to explore, other than market-based ones.
Yeah, absolutely. I would like to open up the session for questions for about 15 minutes, but before that, one final question to all of you, and that is, can you think of one indicator for successful pure intervention for poverty alleviation? How would you measure the success of, perhaps, say, Brenda, the grant that you have made? One indicator, how would you measure it?
I would say sustained income. So because the most common definition of productive use is for it to bring some sort of income to the end user. But that income cannot be one-off, because if it is one-off, then there's a risk of the end user falling back into poverty. So the income needs to be sustained, and it also needs to be incremental. In the event that the end user, the household, or the micro business faces some sort of a shock, they're still able to spring back and not slip further into poverty. And then one last thing I'd add is also being careful not to cause any harm, because sometimes we can be well-intentioned in terms of making the technology available, but is it making the receiver's life much better? The payment plan, is it driving them more into poverty, or actually is taking them out of poverty? So there needs to be income, but it needs to be sustained and incremental over a long period of time.
Absolutely spot on.
For me, I would say improved well-being. And this is for the end user and their dependents. So if somebody, yes, they have sustained income, then the people who are depending on them, which we know is usually the case in point across the South, Africa and Asia. So then if this is a parent, if this is if this is the person who is the main breadwinner, they have the sustained income, how also are they also improving their lives of their spouses, of their offsprings, of their siblings, of the community and the family around them?
Thank you. So for me, from an NGO's perspective, I would say just providing continuous comprehensive support. What do I mean by that? Okay, so for me, I would say that from an NGO's perspective, I'd say that it would be great to continue providing comprehensive support. I'm not just talking about providing technology, but also providing training and continuous awareness campaigns. From the aspect of Tanzania, people are still not as well informed about the productive use of energy. So you need to go out there with campaigns, work with the government on the ground. They have different levels of government officials who can help you arrange such meetings and basically have champions who are doing well with their interventions in terms of their business case studies, in terms of how their income is being, how they've benefited from the technology. So it's really important that you don't just provide just the technology, but you also provide extra support in various aspects. Also with the technicians that you bring on board, you need to provide them also the support so that the interventions are not just, a one-off thing, but something that is sustainable. So yeah, skills, training, education. Thank you.
Yeah, so earlier when I was doing a bit of monitoring and evaluation of these kind of projects, especially the productive use renewable energy products, what I would look for is that I would go into a household and I would just try to talk to the women in the household, and what I would track most often is how the life of the woman in the household has changed with access to a productive use appliance. I would ask her if she's having fuller meals, some time for rest, more quality time with children perhaps, some money that she can call her own to spend the way she would like to spend it. And that is for me an indicator that the pure appliance has made a difference. But I think at this point we will open up we have about 10 to 15 minutes for questions. So any questions? Please raise your hands if you have any. Yeah? So what we'll do is that we will take 3 questions at a time, and then after that we will take 3 more. And we'll see how much time they allow us to go on with questions. So please introduce yourself and to whom you are wanting to ask the question as well.
Okay, thank you. My name is Bruketa Farra. I'm coming from World Resource Institute. My question is for all of them. When we implement ecosystem model for energy intervention, we are working with different actors who have different interests and motivated by different factors. So from your practical experience, how you make reconciliation for different interests and different motivation factor for all these ecosystem actors and make them to stick together and work together in a sustainable manner for change. Thank you.
Yeah, please go ahead.
My question is, these different ecosystem actors have different interests and motivated by different factors. So I wanted to know from their practical experience how they use or implement to reconcile their interests, and also how they make them stick together and work together in a sustainable way.
Hello, my name is Ayan, and I represent Sustain Plus. So, in this panel, there were 2 things which really come up very strongly. One was targeting, and another was the inclusivity lens that most of you are using. My question, and this is my, doubt also, like, do inclusivity lens and scale up of technology can go hand in hand? Or is there a middle part to it? That is one. And the second was to you, Swati ji. Like typically we talk about 2 indicators, drudgery reduction and income enhancement. But with this, the points that you were mentioning about how the life changes in the life of a woman by infusion of a technology, somehow I feel we are actually putting too much pressure on a pure technology for impacting other quality of life aspects of the household. Probably, there are other way out to address those issues. So, these are 2 points from my side.
First and foremost, I want to just thank the organizers for an all-ladies panelist. I must say this is awesome. and well done. My name is Jennifer Gidenji from Africa In-Store Solutions. We implement agricultural and renewable energy programs for communities and smallholder farmers. My question is related to the youth. Now, with Africa, we've seen across 60% of the youth are unemployed. And now, my question then is to the panelists, what are some of the strategies have you adopted that have worked to bring on board the youth? Because majority of the youth are looking at easy, quick money. In Kenya, we see majority of the youth going into boda boda because that is fast money that they are able to quickly generate. When it comes to productive use of energy, these are technologies that we expect them to generate income. What are some of the interventions that you would recommend or has worked in your markets that we could then be able to replicate to attract and incentivize youth into this kind of technology? Asante sana.
Thank you. We'll answer these 3 questions first, and then we'll take a set of 3 more questions. Otherwise, there are too many questions, we also get confused. Yeah, Brenda, will you go first?
Sure. Thanks, everyone, for your questions. So I will start with how the ecosystem actors work together because they have different interests and motivation. As Good Energies, one of the approach we rely on is being a catalytic funder. So we like to go in fast where people are scared to go in or to come in and help our partners test new ideas. But it's always backed up by working in collaboration with other funders that will come in, set the stage, lay the ground with the modest grant amount monies that we give, but then you come on board. It's sort of like a gentleman's agreement. It's not really official or formal or anything like that. And then you come on board and pick up sort of from where we left off. Or we work with partners and say, okay, we can come in and you take it to the next level by trying to attract other funders. So for us, working in a group of funders has really been helpful because, I mean, we may all be working in renewable energy, but our social goals could be different. But the fact that we are able to come together for one unique common objective, that is making renewable energy, especially the central one, go as wide as possible, then we are able to agree. And then another element that we do as an organization, I would say we are everywhere. So we are not only looking at the financial aspect of the ecosystem, but we also give granting to strategic communication. So for example, Power for All, in terms of creating a narrative for the sector, we also make sure that we work with partners that are in advocacy or partners that are involved in knowledge and skills generations or even research like WRI. So the fact that we are able to give grants to this different group of actors, we are able to sort of influence a bit tacitly some of the areas that they can work in. So that's the approach that we use as an organization. There was a question on targeting and inclusivity and if they go hand in hand. In my opinion, I do think they go hand in hand because for there to be inclusivity, then you have to be intentional about which target groups you're looking at. So I do not really see another way of doing it, so they have to go hand in hand. The other question on youth unemployment, unfortunately, I have to admit that for us, we are not really as intentional in bringing the youth on board. Maybe my other panelists are a bit intentional on that. But indirectly, so we also work with try as much as possible, and even going forward, because we are having a strategy refresh, we want to work with local organizations more, and most of these local organizations are led by young people. So that is one approach that we can take, but we're not really as intentional, but we are going to work on that, yes.
I'll start with a youth question. For us at Village Energy, what we have seen as a best practice in terms of targeting the youth is we work with organizations that are youth focused, because of course these solutions are, they're expensive, so they cannot be able to afford them. So then bringing in a partner who is able to support both the financial part but also the capacity building. And then now after some time, and we've seen this very successfully done with the Danish Refugee Council. They have a strong youth component, especially in the refugee areas, where then they come in and they're the ones who are our, they contract us, we do the installations, we do the training, and then now after that they hand it over to the youth groups. And then now the youth groups are the ones to manage and then continue. And of course now with the expansion, it's the youth group that's really responsible. And also the other thing that we have done, we at Village Energy, I'm the oldest person in that team. I've always been. So just also deliberately hiring young people. And so then you make sure that, you have a young team. It is both fascinating and stressful, but that's also one of the ways that for us, Uganda has a very young population. So then I must, and we must make sure that we incorporate some, the young people into as part of our staff. The gentleman made a very interesting comment that, we don't have to include gender in everything. And, like we are loading on too much onto productive use if now we want to make sure that, that gender is taken care of. And I strongly disagree, because 50% of the population, of the world's population, I think slightly above 50%, is women. And therefore, I think all the interventions that we are employing must take that into account. And as much as possible, we know women do a lot of the reproductive work as opposed to the productive work. So then how do we also, and this reproductive work is what actually facilitates a lot of the productive work. Because somebody's cooking, somebody's taking care of the children, there's a clean house. So then the breadwinner, let's say it's a man, is easier for him to go and concentrate whatever he's doing. So then I think we must be very, very deliberate. And as I mentioned earlier, then that also means now bringing in the sector players who are addressing the gender inequalities that most of us encounter in the environments and the communities that we're working with. So that then you tackle that both from, from the top and also from the bottom. In terms of inclusivity and scale up, I think it's, you have to do both. You cannot also be very specific, which is something we have learned, Village Energy, we have really learned that. One of our core values was customization. But then, now when you are working with Equity Bank Uganda, they need a price list. They need, when the customer comes in and they say, I want a solar system, and I want it to power 10 laptops and 2 printers and 30 bulbs. Equity Bank does not have, the time to tell Warenga generate a quotation. So that's something that you have to navigate. On the other hand, then you also don't want to leave it too wide, where somebody maybe needs a 700 watt peak system, but then you're giving them 1.4 kilowatt. So it's a balancing act, and for us, we are definitely learning as we go along. The question about specialities, I think for us, again, as Village Energy, we learned the hard way that you cannot do everything. And in this sector, for us, we have learned that focus and specialization is actually your strength. At some point, Village Energy used to do everything. They were assembling home systems, they were distributing home systems, they were doing mini grids. Anything that had the word solar, they were there. Until then, now in 2018, when you spread yourself too thin. At some point, we had a training academy. So you spread yourself too thin. So you're known for everything and nothing. So there has to be a place in your intervention that you have to focus and decide, I will be known for this thing. With time now, when you get buy-in, people and your clients can now trust you to do other things and be like, okay, we know this is what you do, but this is also some new technology that can come in. Do you mind? But I think it is important to also, at first, really, really focus and then really get good at that thing that you're known for. And then there is room for expansion and adoption.
Yeah, I'll answer your question from my perspective. You said you were tracking just drudgery reduction, income enhancement. But what I have seen is that there is a common belief that women are machine averse. So you would find that invariably all appliances are first monopolized by men. It takes some time for women to come and get comfortable with the appliances, the pure appliances in this case. You also find that sometimes these appliances are not designed for a woman user. There may be some very heavy components. There may be something which puts a woman off from that appliance. So if I'm tracking how a woman reacts to, how a woman's life is changed, I am also indirectly tracking the pure appliance from the gender perspective, saying that, is it gender friendly and what can we do? Can we reduce the weight? Can we reduce the bulk? Can we make it, save time for women? So those are the other things that would get tracked if I'm actually tracking impact on women. That's the way I look at it. But I think we'll go for the next set of questions. 1, 2 hands, 3. Yeah, 3. We stop at these 3 questions? Yeah. Okay, brief questions and brief answers. 3 questions.
Thank you very much. I will be brief, but I don't know how your answer will be brief in any case. I also appreciate the panelists, not because they are energetic, but also all female. Thanks again. With this remark, I have two questions. One, I think access to energy is not a solution to poverty reduction, rather a process. I feel that to measure energy as a result of poverty reduction, there must be a quantifiable marginal change. We really measure over the beneficiaries. It could be through time and so on. To take your points in any case, is there any areas which you think are really of examples to cite whose poverty has been reduced?
Request you to be please brief. He's looking at me.
Okay. The brief question is, can you cite just an example where access to energy has reduced poverty? So, among the many modeling systems, I hope you may have modeling systems, business model, which you have followed. Can you tell us any one of the models which worked well and which didn't, why and how? Thanks.
Thanks, everyone. So I'm Babs from Acumen. So I think my question is, and obviously we are quite focused on poverty reduction and renewable energy and smallholder farmers as well. So I think my main question is, considering the expensive nature of solar home systems and solar equipment, is it realistic to actually target absolute poverty? And if so, how best can you, what kind of funding structures can you put in place for solar companies to be able to afford to target these absolute poverty groups, right? Because it is getting increasingly expensive to deploy these solar systems and actually to purchase these equipment. So what financing structures are possible? Thank you.
Yeah, okay. One last question was there, or? Yeah. Was there one?
Yes, I think we're good. We can proceed to responding to those. Thank you.
Okay, so Brenda, can you answer that question on absolute poverty? And Emma, you want the clear example? Yeah.
Okay. Thank you very much for the question. To be honest, with Kakute, there have been lessons learned from the piloting. There are challenges and, of course, success. So I will talk a bit about the success has been with regards to the use of solar power energy for business centers. So this particular case study, we've seen entrepreneurs who perhaps, as I said, are in a rural area with limited access to energy. And with their limited access, they have a shop. They're in an area where there are various shops and they have various activities going on, and there is no power, of course. So what we've seen is when you install an energy or a solar-powered solution for their business, it increases the, the activity in that area. So for example, I said, with solar-powered business centers, we have activities such as barbershops. We have barbershops, solar-powered fridges for the shop owners who need cold drinks. So you have customers coming in buying things that they need with that particular energy solution. So what we've seen is an increase not just in income, but also you have neighboring communities coming to a particular area, seeing how it's evolving, you know. Barbershops are growing, activities such as I said, solar-powered fridge. We have stationaries opening up, mobile money services that weren't available. Someone had to go all the way to town, a certain amount of kilometers, but now they have access to that, charging their phones. So you get to see more income-generating activities being developed. And these particular cases are now being replicated in other communities nearby. So we see that the impact is communities in other areas coming in, wanting similar solutions so that they also improve their lives. So there are various case studies that I can give, but there are challenges as well, as I said. For example, a not so successful story would be we had the solar-powered egg incubator and vaccination center. And that didn't go so well because also the area in which that entrepreneur was based, the market that he was targeting, there's no interest in that, you know, collecting the eggs and so forth. So you see, even the technology itself wasn't working well. So challenges are technology doesn't work well. You see, perhaps community members are not interested in what that particular intervention. There was the need, as we initially thought was needed, was not a need. So yeah, there are certain challenges that you meet with various case studies that we've come across. Thank you.
Thanks for your question. It's a bit of a tough question. Is it realistic to target absolute poverty? It may not be realistic, but I think it's a must. If you're looking at a human dignity, if you're looking at it from a human dignity perspective. And this is where concerted effort as a sector is needed. I mean, earlier we talked about the ecosystem approach. What can we do together to make sure that those in absolute poverty have access to this important technology that is going to take them to the next level? So initially, while they may not probably have the means to get the technology themselves, what options can we give them? It might mean purchasing the technology on their behalf and giving it to them to make good use of it, because even if we give them the technology, but they do not know how to apply it to, for instance, earn an income, then there's no point in doing so. and it may need going beyond the sector. So if I'm looking at somebody in abject poverty, they may not have access to land, so they can't, let's say, practice agriculture. So if even as a sector we are making the technology available, how are we going to collaborate with other sectors, for example, Ministry of Land, to avail land to this group of people so that initially, even if they're given as a gift, they make something out of it, hopefully, or in an ideal situation, earn an income and then be able to go up the tier level in terms of the kind of energy products that they do access. So it may not be realistic, but in the next couple of years before we get to 2030, where our sort of motto is leave no one behind, unfortunately, I don't think we have much of a choice, but that could be said from an idealistic perspective. And again, as practitioners in the room, coming up with innovative ways. I know energy as a service is picking up. What other solutions can you come up with to reach this group of people? And from the philanthropy side, and probably speaking on behalf of Good Energies, come up with the innovation, and then we back you up with the money so that we reach this group of people. Thank you.
Regretfully, I have to close this panel at this point of time. It's been a very interesting discussion. I am tempted to answer that question about access to energy, whether it has reduced poverty, but maybe over lunch, maybe I can give about 100 unique examples of how it has happened. So I leave it at that, and then not try to summarize, but just let's close the session. Thanks a lot to my panelists. They've been very good.